Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One and all to V8's Online once again this Sunday, the 26th of August, 2018. Certainly a grand occasion to be sure, because once again, we are broadcasting the international division of the Majors Series, and this round is certainly one that we have been looking forward to for quite some time. IndyCar Oval Racing, we went there in May for the Indy 500 at Indianapolis, but now we are at the Tricky Triangle. This is the Pocono 500, a nice, wide, triangular track that is a bit more difficult than it first looks. Certainly going to be a awesome night of racing for sure. My name is Reese Gardiner. Joining me in the commentary box, Cameron Dance. And Cam, it's going to be a good one. 200 laps around Pocono in the Indy cars, over 330 kilometers an hour in the draft, or even out of the draft, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be one of the most toughest races a lot of these drivers are going to have to face this season. It's a very, very warm track, with it being around 44 degrees, 45 in very busy traffic conditions, and a very, very long race of 200 laps, as you said. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this race brings. It's probably going to be a race of attrition and just keeping yourself out of the wall and out of trouble. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very much looking forward to this, and it's going to be probably one of the fastest races we're going to see as well, with you never dropping to below 200 mile an hour throughout the whole entire lap.
Yeah, that's it. And of course, you got to think about turns like turn 2 at Pocono. Basically a right angle, very heavily banked turn, but if you're behind someone, you have to lift off, and there is a fair chance you will put it on the wall if you're not careful. Getting that steering input just right. This round of the Majors Series is supporting Extra Life charity. Play games, heal kids, an awesome cause to support. Be sure to visit Extra Life and consider donating. It's a fantastic cause, helping sick kids in hospital. And we are glad to support it. We've got 4.5 minutes left in this practice session. Currently topping the practice timesheets is Damon Stockton, but Jason Martin is the person who has grabbed pole for this one with an interesting qualifying format. And Cam, we've been observing Jason through the last few rounds of this series. He's usually an oval racer, but he tried his hand at road course racing and did very well at it, I have to say. But now he's here in his usual stomping ground.
Yeah, he is actually. Jason being one of the better drivers on the oval side as far as the Australian New Zealand community goes. So going to be very, very interesting. He's starting on pole by a little bit of a margin here today, so whether he'll win this race is yet to be determined, but it's more than likely he's probably one of the favourites to win it for sure.
Yeah, certainly is. And around this track, 4.02 kilometers with 3 turns, and it's incredibly wide, about 5 lanes, I suppose you could say, if things get especially hectic. It's difficult to get races off to a start in the IndyCar. It's definitely not like stock car racing where there's a bit of biff and barge going on, and people racing in the pack will often try and push each other for position. Here in IndyCar racing, you haven't got the luxury of fenders. You haven't got the luxury of an awful lot of equipment to protect you in the case of a collision or protect your car. So these guys are going to have to be super careful, especially through these turns, and they'll have to make sure that the fronts don't wash out in the draft of cars in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That aero push is going to be very, very deadly if you do not prepare for it through a corner, because it's going to be very easy to put it in the wall on the exit of a corner with how much understeer you suddenly get when you're in that aero push. So it's going to be very, very entertaining to see who's actually going to try and play the strategic side of it. And also, like you said, there's no fenders or anything, so you've really got to look after your car and keep it out of the wall and keep it away from each other as much as possible while still trying to get the maximum amount of draft.
Yeah, certainly. I believe, as usual in this series, drivers do have a spare car available to them in the event that they have a particularly heavy crash, but you wouldn't want to waste that kind of opportunity, because you can't really recover from any kind of hit at a place like this. Once you tap the wall, it's basically your car absolutely destroyed in terms of its handling for the rest of the time that you're on track. So once again, the guys out there are going to have to be super careful. It's a big field too. We've got 23 or so cars around here for this round. Bit of a far cry from the 30 plus that we'd see at a place like Indianapolis, but still, this is a kind of field that has some very strong drivers in it. Some drivers who certainly have proved their worth in oval racing, and it's sure to be a fantastic event. Just taking a look at Damon Stockton as he exits the pits on a bit of a run here. Coming out of turn 1 at Pocono, very heavily banked corner this, Cam, and that run up to turn 3, this is where things will likely get hairy.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very difficult circuit, this, because all 3 corners are completely different to each other. You've got, obviously, turn 1, which is massively banked, and then the short shoot through turn 2, and then the long sweep in turn 3. So it's a very, very interesting challenge. Very, very tricky, with the reasoning behind its name, the Tricky Triangle. So it's a track that requires commitment, it requires a bit of patience, and it does require a lot of skill to not actually put it on the wall, especially with the track temp that we've got today.
Yeah, certainly. The track temperature is 45 degrees out there, so incredibly hot circuit. If you're in the draft, then your fronts are going to go off completely. If you're in clear air, then it's going to be the right rear that you're going to have to worry about. Afternoon conditions, southwest winds at 8 kilometers an hour. Relatively normal humidity, about 70%, so we should see some interesting driving from the drivers out there. But we are in the race session now, and this is the grid as follows. Jason Martin taking pole position with Josh Nowak in second place. That's your championship leader right there. Dean Moll lining up in third with Jake Fox fourth. Fifth is going to be Daniel Stevens, Joseph Cardamone, and John King. Sixth and seventh with Matthew Clote in eighth place. Oliver Searles and Dwayne Burns rounding out the top 10.
In 11th, we have Martin Houston with Olas Patakas in 12th. 13th is held by Shane Bowen with Ray Griffin in 14th. 15th, we'll go to Alex under Sheridan with Christopher Norton in 16th. 17th, Damon Stockton, quickest in practice. 18th will go to full auto. 19th, Trevor Mack, and rounding at the top 20 will be Mike Goulet.
And the field is going to be rounded out by Adam McLeod, Robert Northway, Raul Alvarez, and Rory Boyd. So drivers are now going to be moving off behind the safety car, coming out of the pits. Interesting staggered formation here at Pocono. I love the novelty of seeing cars line up like that, almost like a Le Mans start. Looks like Ray Griffin was a bit slow to get going there, so obviously not optimal, but they will have a lot of time to catch up as they go around the formation lap. And I suppose, if anything, a track like this, you know, this the scan for this track dates from 2016, so this is when the track had recently had a new surface put onto it. The version of Pocono that many ultra-experienced iRacers will be familiar with was one that was bumpy and had a very rough surface and almost turned turn 3 into the kind of turn where you had to stay wide in order to get the fastest line through it. Not so here. Track is reasonably smooth, and you have quite a lot of room to experiment with lines around here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on the run up to turn 1 around the first few laps. Chance of some safety cars as well. In terms of strategy, we've got quite a lot to come up with because tyres will only last around 30 laps with fuel not an issue. Either way, we're coming around to take the green flag now. The pace car will jump into the pits here, and we're going to go racing at the Pocono 500. The green flag flying, and Jason Martin not getting much of a jump off the start, but the field is very orderly for the most part. Josh Nowak, though, immediately going for the move here at turn 1. And he's gone through into the lead of the race already, so Nowak taking no prisoners at the moment, but Martin's coming back at him.
Yeah, he's already looking up the inside, and it's going to be job done, actually, before they even get to turn 2, so they're going to slot on by a single file for the most part, but yeah, Martin actually just touched the apron there, which you don't really want to do around here because it can actually unsettle the car, and it'll actually burn that right rear out very, very quickly, so very lucky to get away with that, but he'll now slot back in a second, and Nowak will step back into the lead.
Yes, indeed, and Nowak has quite the lead coming on to lap 2 here. And now there's a bit of a pack forming behind him. Martin, Mole, and Fox. A little bit of jostling back in the pack. Oliver Searles actually a little slow off turn 1, and I'm seeing Aldis Puteklis and Dwayne Burns going side by side behind him. This is where the moves start to be made. Martin Houston getting passed by Shane Bowen. Oh, Bowen's actually in the wall. That's no good. So that's messed up his car balance, and it's actually caused a bit of an accordion effect for the cars behind him, Cam.
Yeah, it has, and it's very, very easy to do, especially in the aero push that, like we were talking about earlier. So it's a very easy thing to do, but he's going to have to soldier on. He has a faster pace, so it's not going to be too big of an issue, but we have to be really, really careful with the amount of imbalancement that it's going to create on that car.
Yes, indeed. Looks like car has actually fallen back from the top 4 battle. It's just Jason Martin and Dean Mole there at the moment. Cardamone has really fallen back from those guys.
Oh, I've got a car in the wall in the back.
Yeah, and the yellow flag. That's Phil Otto. The yellow flag is out, so it didn't take long for us to get a caution, and that car does not look in any state to be driven by anyone at the moment. Otto missing half his front wing. The front suspension dampers revealed, and a bit of rear wing as well. So we'll just take a look at what happened to Otto. Looks to me like there was contact, a little bit of contact between Otto and Ray Griffin, which is certainly not what we want to see. So Ray Griffin with a bit of damage as well.
Yeah, he'll have a bit of front wing damage, and really, really strange incident because it's actually quite easy to do with the speed differential and the whole aero push sort of scenario, because you have to remember that the guy in front of you is going to lift actually a lot more than you will. So it's quite an easy thing to do and to have happened. But yeah, really, really unfortunate for those two, and they'll have to come in and get those repairs done.
Yes, indeed. Josh Noack on the InSim text chat saying pit. I don't know if that was intended as a private communication for his team, Kinetic Racing. We might see a couple of pit stops happening under this caution period. So, tell you what, Jason Martin can get himself some new tires. Be interesting to see what he can do from here, and it looks like he is actually going to go for the pits. Yes, he is. Noack staying out. Martin going for the pit stop, and the vast majority of people actually staying out. But you can see in the background, we've got quite a few drivers going for the pits as well. So Christopher Norton, Shane Bowen, Ray Griffin, and Robert Northway joining Jason Martin in the pits. Got a couple of other cars coming in too. That's Rory Boyd and Mike Ouellette, along with Raul Alvarez. So these guys will be looking to preserve their rubber as much as possible. At least the guys who are pitted from the rear of the field. Jason Martin, though, coming back out onto the circuit, he's got a bit of an advantage here if there isn't another caution.
Yeah, he does actually. All these guys that have just recently pitted do actually, because with the hot track that it is, tire degradation is actually going to be quite high compared to most races on oval. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the differential between the newer tire and those that are on 5 laps old since the start of the race. So it's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on, and I'm sure we're going to see Martin and those guys all move through the pack rather quickly, but they do have to remember that they're not going to want to burn those tires off too quickly either, because with the amount of aero push, it's going to really destroy those tires quite quickly.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for the drivers up the front who have not taken any tires. So there's a fair chance, actually, we might actually be seeing some of those cars up the front using a bit of the apron in turn 2 to try and get that car rotated. But as we've seen, it can make the car get incredibly loose, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting as the red flag is out.
So Josh Noack leads the field away for the restart. Looks like he's managed to get a pretty good run. A single file restart here. We're already seeing a potential move being made. Oliver Searles trying to take Daniel Stevens on the inside, and Stevens just getting the better run there off the top as the track goes slightly downhill off the banking. So now Searles, with that loss of momentum, is now under attack from Puteklis. Meanwhile, up the front, Noack has quite the lead at the moment. No pressure at the moment from Dean Moll, and Joseph Cardamone falling further back, just running wide on the exit of turn 3. So this battle between Searles and Puteklis, I think, is where it's at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Reese. And it's something something else we're going to have to keep an eye on also is the different lines guys are going to have to take, because with the amount of rubber and heat that the track has, it's going to be pretty much single file. And if you get outside into that grey, you're going to almost immediately end up in the wall if you're not lucky, as Searles has someone just in front of him almost do that very thing. So it's going to be very, very close between everybody, and everybody's going to have some sort of strategy that they're going to have to run. But another thing I actually want to point out is Noack actually only bought the track this week, so he's actually doing very, very well for someone who's only done his practice laps and qualifying in the last few days.
Yeah, certainly doing very well, Josh Noack, but I guess that's the reason why he's championship leader. The Majors is all about adaptability and being multifaceted in your talents, so Noack getting up to speed very quickly. Update on Jason Martin. In car number 655, he's currently battling with Trevor Mack and Christopher Norton. And have a look at that. Trevor Mack losing the run majorly off of turn 2. Now Jason Martin making up 2 positions on the run up to turn 3. So he's doing very well at the moment to make his way up the field.
Yeah, he is. Really, really good move on Houston there through to number 3, or into turn number 3. So he's got Sheridan just in front of him, and I'm sure those new tyres are going to kick in really shortly. Jason running a little bit higher than most guys are, which is interesting to see. Same with a couple of others trying to get out of that aero push. So rather interesting to see the different lines, but Martin's going to have another place here on Sheridan as they head down towards turn number 2.
Yeah, he is. Just sticking low to the inside and...
oh, car on the wall in the background.
Oh, no. What would that be about? That's Christopher Norton, and that is going to be another caution. Oh, my goodness. Rory Boyd just avoiding Trevor Mack, who was... hang on, sorry. No, that wasn't Trevor Mack. That was Ray Griffin flying through the air. That was a spectacular incident. Looked like a few cars involved in that one.
Yeah, there was actually. That was all just because Houston ended up just running up into the wall, and it actually checked up Norton a bit too much. And Norton unfortunately had nowhere to go, so he just ended up running up over the back and losing control of the car, which left with pretty much everybody behind with nowhere to go, unfortunately.
So it looks like something like 5 cars involved in that incident, which is a real shame to see this early in the race, but those guys have a spare car that they can make use of, so they can get back out there and see what they can make of this one. So Ray Griffin currently in the pits, getting his machine repaired. Get the feeling that he may already have used up his spare car. Christopher Norton, meanwhile, with a bit of an odd-looking car currently at his disposal. The right rear, I believe, actually off the ground. So not in any reasonable shape is the suspension on that thing.
No, it isn't really, and it's a weird thing that iRacing does because there's no simulated way of the wheels falling off yet. It's kind of iRacing's way of showing that a wheel's fallen off more or less, which kind of does make it a little bit strange and funny at times.
Yes, well, that's all going to change in an upcoming build when iRacing release their new damage model, which we have seen the preview videos of, and it certainly looks like it goes into a great deal of depth. So I'm really looking forward to the day when we can see that implemented on these cars, and we'll be able to see what kind of damage the drivers are actually dealing with out there. So Christopher Norton taking his spare car, quite a few guys using their spare car in this pit stop. And so we see the field just forming up behind the safety car once again. We're green this lap, and caution periods actually go by fairly quickly here at Pocono, I've noticed. It only is about a lap, maybe 2 laps before we go green again.
Yeah, with it being such a long circuit, or one of the longer ovals, the number of pace laps they do under caution is actually quite few compared to somewhere where you'd go to, such as Richmond or Milwaukee, or somewhere small and short like that. It's more of a shorter lap because of the extra lap length, so they tend to do only about 1 or 2 less laps compared to the other shorter ovals, so they do go quite quickly, and it is also single file restart, so a little bit easier for guys to not cause accidents, but you really do have to time your restarts as the pace car is about to pull in.
Yeah, certainly. We'll see who times the launch the best as the green flag flies. Noack goes, and it looks to me like he's gotten another good jump. Dean Mole leading up the pack here. Oliver Searles, I'm seeing, going to the move on Daniel Stevens, or not. Just chooses to tap out of that one. So now we've got a lot of guys with brand new cars, brand new tyres, trying to fight for positions here. And Jason Martin, our pole sitter, is currently behind Dwayne Burns, catching a bit of draft, seeing if he can catch up to the back of this pack. And Martin, we've noticed, has actually gotten a new front wing in that pit stop as well, so his car will be in better shape than it was before. A little bit of extra front downforce at his disposal, so should definitely help the degradation of his front tyres.
Yeah, absolutely is. He's actually going to go side by side up top with Dwayne Burns. He's actually just going to drive it straight around the outside, so
Nicely done.
that new front wing and those new tyres have definitely helped him a lot there.
Getting a bit hectic in front of him, though, as Matthew Clote and Joseph Cardamone briefly going side by side. So Cardamone currently under major pressure from two cars of the same team.
Clayton Stevens, I believe.
Yes, indeed. So these guys currently putting Cardamone under major pressure, and there we go, Clote going for the move into turn one, as behind him I'm seeing a hint of the same thing happening between Trevor Mack and Oliver Searles, but oh, nothing came of that in the mid-corner, but we'll wait for it on the exit. Oh, have a look at Cardamone. Big draft on Matthew Clote, and he's going to go straight back, slot back into turn three. And this is the kind of the racing that we will be seeing, Cam, just drivers swapping places down the straights. Pocono straights are very long, and these turns with their room for experiment... Oh, no. The yellow flag out again. Goodness me, another big crash. What's going on this time? Damon Stockton and John King have come together, it seems.
Yeah, it looks like Stockton actually tried to go for the move up the inside, but didn't quite get up far enough, and he's actually just turned King, unfortunately, and with pretty much John King spinning, he's had nowhere to go and straight into him, and then King's actually collected someone else while trying to rejoin the track, so quite a large incident.
He has too. The person that he collected was Raul Alvarez, so quite a few drivers not having the best race here at the moment, and I think some rash moves being made where there probably shouldn't be. Got to remember, this race is 200 laps long, with a maximum time limit of 4 hours, so the drivers, I think if they want to get to the end of this one, they need to be extra careful. Like, trading places along the straights is fine, but it's when you get to the turns that you really need to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as we said, a really difficult circuit. The conditions are quite difficult, so it's just going to be all about being patient, taking your time, and making sure you get to the end of the race rather than trying to give it 110% from the first lap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, safety car coming through turn 3 at the moment. And we'll see if any drivers decide to go for the pits this time around, aside from the ones who are pitting for damage. Looks like Oliver Searles faking. Behind him, I can see Michael Lett going for another stop, along with Rory Boyd and Robert Northway. Alvarez following them in to repair some damage, and Alvarez, got a feel for him. He was an innocent victim in that one.
Yeah, it really was, and it was really unfortunate that he got involved there. So he'll have come in, got a new fresh car, and he'll be back out there to try and finish this race without any more damage.
Yeah, he certainly will. We'll see how that eventuates, though. Seems to me like there's been quite a few victims of incidents in this field who otherwise would not have been, and already seeing that we've had Shane Bowen and Ray Griffin retire from the race, and it looks like Phil Otto isn't in the... Oh, Phil Otto's actually getting back in the car. So he spent quite a bit of time getting that thing towed or repaired, so hopefully he can get back out there. Meanwhile, up the front, this is going to be a 3-lap caution, I believe. So Josh Nowak and Dean Moll currently your two race leaders. And Nowak, I think, has done very well to get and maintain this lead. But looking behind him, you know, Dean Mole obviously going from third to second, and he's definitely challenging for victory in these early stages of the race. But have a look at Trevor Mack. He's gained a lot of positions, I would presume, by staying out, whereas other people have pitted for tyres.
Yeah, that's probably been the case, and he's also just kept it out of trouble. He's gone from 19th to 7th, so he's made his way through the field quite well, and with the way he's going, he should be on for a top 5, possibly even a podium if he can just keep it out of the wall and just continue to do what he's doing at the moment.
Robert Northway coming into the pits yet again. I'm not quite sure what's gone on there, but certainly not an optimal situation for him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
This is
It's his
fourth pit
one.
stop. Wow, yeah, and he's actually way far down on where he was. He's still up from where he started, but that's intriguing. Obviously having a few issues.
Yeah, possibly making a front wing change last second, or possibly getting a little bit more damage fixed after using a fast spin. Not entirely sure, but yeah, like I said, very, very intriguing.
Yeah, definitely. It would make sense getting the front wing change because as the track gets hotter, you know, it's already a very hot track, but cars pounding over it, heating up that racing line, you want all the front downforce that you can muster, especially when you're back in the pack. We keep saying that. It's very much a grip-limited track here, especially if you're talking about the front tires. So wouldn't be a bad idea to add a couple of clicks onto your front wing. We're coming into turn 3, the end of this caution period, the third one of the race. Pace car's lights are off, and we'll see if Nowak can maintain this lead once again. I get the feeling Dean Mole is not going to pressure him too hard. Nowak going a bit early, so Mole getting left behind a little bit, but he does have the hint of a draft.
Yeah, Dean Mole seems to be really, really relaxed on the restarts, with the amount of gap that he's actually left to Nowak. I'm not exactly sure why, as most guys will actually try to be as close as possible, but Sills is having a look up the inside of Daniel Stevens as they head into turn 1, and we've actually got another call.
Oh no, yeah, we have to. And that's Robert Northway, who I noticed was racing with John King. So let's take a look at what happened with him. It wasn't an incident with King. Oh yeah, he has too. Oh goodness me. He must have been expecting Alvarez to track out a little bit more when obviously he didn't. So now Northway, he's managed to get going again, but yet again, this is turning out to be a very start-stop race so far.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it's a very, very warm track, and it's a very difficult circuit, so surviving is just going to be a key, and I would hate to say it, but I think Northway's day is probably going to be done.
Yeah, I would presume so as well. It's a real shame. He is bringing it into the pits, so we'll see if he can get that thing repaired, but if he's already used his fast repair, then this is going to cost him a lot of time. That car looks very much worse for wear. Looks like he has actually used the fast repair there. So Northway immediately out. So that's very fortunate for him, Cam.
Yeah, it is actually.
Well, that settles that matter. But now we've got to wait for the pace car to go around at least one more lap before we go racing green again. And you got to wonder when Nowak is going to choose to pit, because he's certainly saving up on his tyre life by staying out through these cautions. And I suppose drivers like Jason Martin, Jason Martin's actually made his way up into 9th. So He's certainly going to be loving that, but I'll tell you what, it's probably not the wisest decision for Noack to be staying out this long, as I'm noticing Rory Boyd going into the pits now.
Well, it's funny you say that, Reese, because Noak's all the way out in the front on his own, so he's not having to worry about that aero push, which for most of the guys will be absolutely destroying the front of the tires. And with the number of cautions we've had so far, the right rear on Noak's car won't really be getting too much punishment. So his need to pit isn't really necessary until later on when we actually get some decent green flag running.
That's a very good point you make there, Cam. I stand corrected. Robert Northway coming to a stop in the pits yet again. Something must be wrong, because he's just gone up on the jacks and then gotten back down again. Maybe he forgot to change tires?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the strategy call from Northway is, but it's a very strange one.
Yeah, well, I suppose, given the circumstances, he doesn't have much to lose. The worst he can look forward to is being at the back on the start, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's when you're up in the middle of the pack that I think you should start getting worried about incidents and the way that they can affect you. But pace car's lights still on for now. They'll be coming through for this final caution lap. So looking through the field, people like Trevor Mack, obviously the biggest gainers here at the moment, but we should also look at people like Christopher Norton, Alexander Sheridan, and Adam McLeod. They've all done very well in these opening stints as well.
Yeah, they have actually. They've all moved up quite a few positions. Obviously, some of those positions will be due to those having accidents or just pitting at different times, but obviously those gains are still better than none, and a lot of these guys will probably actually end up getting quite good results from just keeping it out of the wall and staying out of the pits for the most time.
Yes, indeed. Robert Northway in the pits once again, just coming up off the jacks. I have no idea what he's doing. Probably topping the car back up with fuel or something like that, but he's pitted every single lap in this caution period, I believe. Interesting stat just before we go green. I know this is probably going to change after a lap or so of running, but Trevor Mack started 19th and is currently in 7th. John King started 7th and is currently in 19th. Doesn't really mean much, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, actually, that's quite an interesting stat, actually.
Complete flip of their starting positions right there. And it's happened so early in the race as well. We're only a 10th done here in terms of distance. But if this current trend of cautions keeps going, then we may just hit the time limit. We'll find out very, very soon, though, because lights are off on the pace car. And it will be business as usual, I presume, for Josh Noack. Pace car into the pits now. The green flag flying and Noack getting actually a really good jump this time. And Dean Moll, I think, was caught sleeping slightly because now he is under... Oh, no. Not again. Another caution.
And McLeod on the front straight for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a big moment where the field's actually just checked up on the restart?
Oh.
And he's had nowhere to go, and he's run into the back of, I believe, that was Christopher Norton.
Yeah, that was quite the accordion effect there. I don't know what went on there, who was responsible for that, because...
Plus, I believe, didn't actually go when the rest of the field did, so that pretty much just caused an accordion effect on the rest.
Well, that's not optimal by any stretch of the imagination. Unfortunately, that's resulted in another caution period. While we're on this caution period, we may take this opportunity to go on a commercial break. You're watching the International Majors Series, the Pocono 500 here on V8's Online. The Pocono 500 here in the International Division of the Majors Series. Just coming into turn 3, and there will be 1 lap to go on this caution. Now, Cam, I'm interested to see what happens, because we discussed before the race how long tyres last under green flag conditions. As I'm noticing, oh, pretty major fake there from Joseph Cardamone.
And Houston's actually coming in.
Yeah, that's right. Martin Houston coming in too. But these tyres only last 30 laps or so, running at sustained speed. So obviously those tyres out there, they'll be getting a good rest under these caution periods, so the drivers will be able to make them last longer. But surely a pit stop will be coming up soon for our top runners.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Like, because of the way that these cautions have fallen, the necessity to take tires isn't really mandatory, so they can stay out for quite a long time. And one of the other things is that these front guys don't want to end up back in that mess that mid pack is at the moment. So staying out front and staying out and not taking tires or any fuel or anything like that is probably an advantage to some extent for these guys.
Yeah, I suppose so. The obviously the less time you spend in the pits, the better. But people like Jason Martin, who have been slowly making their way up, who knows? Depending on whether or not we go to time or not, he may have an advantage at the very end with that pit stop that's slightly off strategy to everybody else.
Yeah, for sure. And when by the time, roughly around when they get to lap to 170, not 270, once they get to lap 170, they should all be fine from fine to get home from that point, so long as the tyres do last. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what sort of strategy all these cautions do throw up at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, crossing the start-finish line now, the lights on the pace car are off, and I'm certainly here hoping, Cam, that we get some sustained green flag running, because obviously seeing spectacular crashes can be exciting, but we're here to see racing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not really that great to, from both the drivers and the spectators' point of view, to see a lot of cars doing a lot of laps under safety car. And like you said, while the crashes do look amazing, it's not the greatest thing you want to be seeing happening on a constant basis as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So coming down on the run up to turn 2, the circuit really turns it up. It's often called the oval that drives like a road course, just for the sheer amount of difficulty that the drivers have in navigating these bends. So we will be watching what Josh Nowak does. Expect another early jump from him, but I'm still keeping one eye on Jason Martin, because he's been staying out of trouble. He's been slowly making his way up, slowly making his case for why he deserves to be on the top step after the race as well as before it.
Yeah, pretty much everyone inside that top 10 has a chance at actually possibly winning this race, as the pace car is about to pull in. Once again, Josh Nowak will lead the field away. We are green, and Mole again, too, leaving quite a bit of a gap, and Cardamo's actually probably going to take advantage of this with that draft that he's going to have.
Yeah, certainly. Cardamom, one of Nowak's teammates. So if he can get past Mole, then that would certainly be quite the boost for the kinetic racing guys. In the background, Jason Martin getting very frisky with Jake Fox. Seeing a little bit of an accordion effect forming back there as they go through turn 2. And Martin, have a look at that. Who's that with the pace there? That's Puteklis. So he's just going to go right on by, and Martin, very wisely, is just going to let him go. I think that's a big part of the reason why we see Martin in the position he's in. He just takes a lot of care. And Martin Houston going into the pits as the rest of the field continues racing on. Not quite sure what the go is there, but right now we're seeing a big pack forming in the midfield as Christopher Norton pressuring Dwayne Burns at the moment. And have a look at Jason Martin up ahead. This is a bit of an awkward situation for him.
Yeah, he's got Toothless and also Fox just ahead of him. He's going to try and go around the outside of Fox. It's not quite going to work, but he's going to slot back into the draft and now try up the inside at turn 1. He's going to have to think about this because he wants to try and get that run, but he actually backs back out smartly and sits in behind in the draft.
Yeah, I can see a lot of drivers getting aggressive with new tyres after their recent stops, but Martin is on older tyres than just about everyone else except Nowak and the other front runners, so it's in his best interest to take care of his car, take care of his tyres. We've got a car going slightly slowly. That is Martin Houston, who's just come out of the pits, and he'll have to stick well to the inside of turn 3 here. Fortunately, it seems like everyone's gotten by him without incident.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on later in the race when lap traffic does become a factor, if it does become a factor, because it's going to check a lot of guys out and probably going to catch a lot of guys out in that they're going to have to run a lot higher than they used to and could end up in the wall as Martin's actually got by, I believe, Jake Fox.
Yeah, Jake Fox actually did not have a very good run off turn 1, and hasn't had that good of a run off turn 2 either. And he's rapidly falling under pressure from Burns. So for the most part, the field is spread out here. It's just these positions from 9th back that seem to be where the big action is at. And Jason Martin doing very well as we're looking at Oliver Searles and Trevor Mack as well. They've got Puteklis for company 2. Searles a little wide through turn 3, but that translates into a bit of a better run down the following straight. So Trevor Mack continued to hold 7th position, which is really good to see. And I think now most of the guys have gotten the crashes out of their system. It's Jake Fox, Dwayne Burns, and Damon Stockton having a bit of a fight here. Almost contact between Burns and Stockton. They're actually going to run side by side here up to turn 3, Cam.
Yeah, they will turn 2, and Dwayne Burns is going to be right up on the outside. He's going to have to back out of it, be careful there, and they both make it through, actually. So some good little racing going on here between these two, and Stockton is still going to be on the inside. He should have the advantage heading through turn number 3 as he gets a little bit loose using that curve, but it's helped him get ahead, and he's now ahead of Dwayne Burns, who's actually going to have the draft, and he's going to go defensive, actually. So
yeah, Stockton
trying to break the draft, but he's managed to hold that position. Yeah,
very assertive defending by Damon Stockton there, and my apologies to the viewers. I keep getting turn numbers confused here. When I get into oval mode, I tend to default to the method of 1, 2, 3, and 4. But of course, at Pocono, there is no turn 4. So my apologies for that. Daniel Stevens, meanwhile, in a bit of trouble here. Just lost 1 spot. He's about to lose another one here to Trevor Mack.
Possibly lose another 2 and then by the end of the next lap as well. So
this is quite the pack, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, actually. And this is actually that difference between new and old tyres as well. Stevens has actually stayed out, whereas all these guys around him have got new tyres. They're going to go 3 wide down towards turn number 2. Who's going to give out? Looks like Trevor Mack will give out by the looks of it.
Well, Trevor Mack has to, I would presume, has tyres to spare, but have a look at Jason Martin. He's going to take advantage of all of this.
And same with Christopher Norton, possibly, as when they head down towards turn number 1.
We'll see what happens here, because this battling has given the advantage back to Daniel Stevens, not to mention Oliver Searles. So, continuing side by side through turn 1, Jason Martin and Trevor Mack. Martin's front left will not be liking that out on the marbles off the racing line through turn 1, but he has got a good exit. Mack's just going to slot back in behind, not without Christopher Norton having a bit of a go at him, though.
Yeah, Norton's right behind Mack. He's going to possibly try and have a look and get him past, but it just doesn't seem he has the cornering speed to be able to keep up with it, Mack, and get the job done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's obviously not an optimal situation. Jason Martin, though, continuing his slow chipping away at the positions around him. He's trying to catch back up to Aldis again, who in turn is now back in the draft of Daniel Stevens. So these three are going to come together again pretty soon. Oh, have a look. Daniel Stevens very slow off turn 2. Obviously a bit of a car problem in the middle of the corner, so he's just going to give up those 2 positions now. And Martin losing a bit of momentum in turn 3 as well. So this is not what either of these guys would desire. Side by side into turn 1.
That was really weird from Stevens there through turn 2. He actually, the car just didn't look like it wanted to turn, which was really, really weird with how shallow he was. So I'm not sure if it's due to the tyre degradation or whether he just didn't get the line right, but it was really, really windy. It cost him quite a bit of time.
Yeah, certainly did. Only 2 positions, though. We'll see what happens, though, with Trevor Mack actually quite racy behind him. Have a look, Daniel Stevens again. He's going into the pits there, so obviously this issue runs a little deeper for Daniel Stevens, or maybe his tyres have just gone and he's the first of those front runners to really blink.
Yeah, because of this longer green flag period, a lot of these guys are actually going to start to feel the effects of tyre wear and what their car's going to be doing in traffic. So we'll probably see a number of people actually pitting.
Oh no, there we go. Jake Fox and Damon Stockton. That's going to be a caution right there once again. It looks to me like Jake Fox just... oh no, that was Stockton going up into Jake Fox there.
Yeah, just wasn't quite far enough. Again, up alongside the car and just clipped the rear end and it turned him, unfortunately.
Yeah, it definitely did. That is... Jake Fox will be absolutely fuming at that. That's a real shame. It just goes to show that it's not just a case of turn left and go through the turn. Turn 2 at Pocono, if you apex too early, then that is a demonstration of exactly what happens. So now we've had a bit of an extended green flag run. So the front runner's tyres will be worn down a fair bit. I would wager that we'd see them in the pits this time round, but who knows? Noak could surprise us and continue to stay out.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Noak's going to do, but I'd say pretty much the whole field will come in. If not, I'll be very surprised to see who stays out, but we'll see what happens when they come past the pits this time. But it would probably not be a silly idea to actually pit and put some new bags on, especially with that extended green flag run.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Who knows, with the reduced rate of cautions, we might see more green flag running. So Noak making for the pits. Does he commit, though? Yes, he does. And it looks to me like on the entry to pits, Dean Moll decided to try and gain just a little more time there. Not that it matters much. They're still under pace conditions. Meanwhile, it's a question of who stays out rather than who goes in. Martin Houston, one of only 2 drivers in the field to stay out. The other one, Daniel Stevens.
Well, Stevens did pit only a few laps ago, so he's more or less in the box seat now to be leading this race.
Yes, indeed. And Martin Houston was a lap down last time by. So
Noak actually dropped a few positions as well through the pits. He's now down at 3rd, effectively.
He did too. Yeah, so Jason Martin, he would have had to take more fuel, and Martin has jumped them under that. He would have had to take less fuel. So that's a good ploy by Martin there to get back into the lead of this race. And Josh Noak will resume in position 3, effective. But Martin Houston, this is a ploy by him to get his lap back. So Houston and Stevens are going to be ones to watch in this next stint, see what they can do versus the leaders on fresh tyres. Of course, we don't have Lucky Dog in this race, so Houston will not get an opportunity to go around and rejoin the back of the field.
No, he will get waved out by the pace car to get back onto the lead lap because it is IndyCar. So if the lap cars are ahead of the effective race leader, they do get a wave around to get to the back of the field. However, the rule with majors is that I think it's with 20 or less laps to go, if they are at the front or in the mix of the field that are on the lead lap, they get put to the back.
Okay. Apologies once again. Obviously, not. I'm definitely not the guy you'd go to for info on how the rules of oval racing work. I've got people like you, Cam, and Jay Kennedy for that. But Martin Houston is going to go around and rejoin at the back of the field. Meanwhile, Dean Moll, we've got people asking about his livery. Apparently, that livery was done by Dean's kids, and with crayons, no less. And I have to say, they've done a pretty good job, because Moll then scanned the livery into the sim and is actually racing in that livery. And gotta say, Mole Juniors, they have a very good taste in terms of color schemes. I really like that. Very striking.
Yeah, it actually is. He actually, I'm pretty sure he did run it for the Indy 500, if I'm not mistaken, and it actually did give a few people raise a few eyebrows and go, "That's a very interesting livery."
I like it. I actually really love that combination of colors. That's really awesome.
Yeah,
Great
it actually
stuff.
is.
Loving it. Well, hopefully for Mole, he will be able to put that car up the top. Stick it on the fridge as well. As green flag flies, Daniel Stevens is the one to lead the field away now in the first position. And Nowak, yeah, that's quite the jump that he is attempting to make here on Puteklis and probably on Martin as well. So this is going to be a repeat of the first. Oh no, Nowak actually losing a bit of momentum in the middle of turn one. So that's left him open to an attack here. Jason Martin drafting up to the back of Daniel Stevens.
And Mole's actually going to get back into this front battle, as he's actually going to look to make a move on Nowak as they head down towards turn 3, although he thinks better of it.
Yeah, certainly does. So I'm sure Mole will be aware of Nowak's pace. Meanwhile, it's on for the lead. Daniel Stevens going immediately defensive versus Jason Martin, leaving him at just a car width, one lane on the outside of the track. Martin just inching by, but Stevens having the inside. Have a look at the run from Martin around the outside. He loves doing that.
He's really got a good balance on that car to manage to actually use that high line, as a lot of guys aren't actually able to get up in that greyish area. So he's got a really, really good setup underneath him, and I'm sure it's going to help him in the long run as well if we get some long green flag running.
Yeah, certainly. Martin, look at him. He's just running away from Stevens at the moment as Trevor Mack and Joseph Cardamone battling down the front straight. So Mack almost with the inside line, but Cardamone just letting him know, I'm not going to let you have this that easily, Trevor. And there we go. Trevor losing a bit of pace in the middle of turn one. Meanwhile, Oliver Searles is looking quite racy here. Around the outside, actually, on Dwayne Burns. So, very nice job there.
Daniel Stevens is actually doing a really, really good job at holding on to the back of Jason Martin. It's actually looked like he's going to get a move done at turn one, possibly as he goes up the inside, but Martin's going to hold it around the outside and keep that momentum up. So really good driving there, and really good driving from actually Daniel Stevens to keep up with Martin here. Yeah,
certainly. He's showing that he's a contender for victory here, just staying in that draft of Martin. But you could see Martin, he knows the track very well. Went for that late apex in turn one. Got a very nice run. So Martin is looking quite comfortable here in the lead at the moment. I dare say that Daniel Stevens won't be properly pressuring him for some time. But it's not over between Oliver Searles and Dwayne Burns. Battle for 8th and 9th. So So Burns not letting Searles get away with this, and Searles actually a little bit wide in turn 1, but he hasn't lost much momentum. Mac and Cardamone, meanwhile, up in front of them, continuing to fight. And this is the point, I think, where the drivers are just playing it safe at the moment. There's no point in making any rash moves here.
Yeah, I think you're correct, as we not too far away from being at the 50 lap mark, so 4 of the way through. So guys will start to be a little bit more patient and actually look at the big picture and just more or less try and keep it out of the wall and really look at it as a quote-unquote endurance race rather than a sprint race.
That's exactly right. I mean, 500 miles, that's over 750 kilometers. So you gotta be on your toes. You gotta make sure that you're not too hot-headed, I suppose, out there on the circuit, especially when you're going around at over 200 miles an hour in an IndyCar. Jason Martin just touching 354 kilometers an hour on the run up to turn 1 without a draft. That is insane.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very quick, and you do hit that sort of speed at Indy, but you don't do it for very long compared to here at Pocono, where it's actually quite a common theme to be above 350, 340 kilometers an hour for majority of the lap.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, at 365 kilometers per hour, that is the highest speed trap speed, Jake Fox. So he's got some speed under that car.
Yeah, he does, and he does have 2 cars in front of him to give him a lot of drafts, so that'll be helping him quite a bit as he is currently in a battle with Michael and Alexander Sheridan further down in the field.
Yes, indeed, and Robert Northway getting a good run, but electing to back out of it. So not going for it that time. Michaelette, though, in the Pennzoil liveried yellow IndyCar, very striking livery, I have to say. He's made his way up to 14th from 20th, and he's not... that's not the line that I would probably take through turn 3.
Yeah, really interesting line, I guess you could say. Possibly Mike was searching for a bit of grip up high through turn 3 in the cooler region of the track, maybe? I'm not entirely sure.
This is... that's a very good point you make, because obviously the track is heating up quite a bit now, especially on the racing line, and so the drivers will be searching for any kind of cool area to try and get a bit of grip. Problem is, there be marbles, and Michaelette is going to have to clear those before he can try and make a nice gap here on Jake Fox. Actually losing time to Alexander Sheridan in front, so there might be a close battle starting there. Martin Houston going for the pits once again.
Yeah, well, he was one of the first to pit as well, so he's done another green flag pit stop, so...
Oh, Daniel Stevens!
Oh.
I don't know what happened to Stevens there. It looked like he just... well, he's going for the pits. I think he... What did he do?
Yeah, he actually do. He actually hit the wall quite hard at a turn 2.
Yeah, goodness me. Just ran right up into the wall. It's actually quite lucky that he didn't get into the other wall. Replay on screen at the moment. He actually ended up taking to the grass. Damaged the right front as well. So Stevens' race has just gone from great to not so good, especially considering that the race is still under green flag conditions. So he's ended up losing a lot more time than he would have under a safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's one of the very, very easy things to do, especially through turn 2, where on older tires, if you're not ready for that older tire understeer, you're going to really get caught out and end up in the wall no matter how much you actually try to avoid ending up in it, because once you lose your front grip in an IndyCar, that's pretty much it. You've got no way of recovering it unless you really, really slow down.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, that's given Jason Martin a bit more breathing room, and he's looking, oh, semi-comfortable. I noticed a little bit of a wiggle through the last turn. As we're looking at Matthew Clote and Christopher Norton at the moment. So, Clote was 0.3 quicker on the last lap than Norton was, so definitely some pace in that number 54 car. Catching up to the 22.
She's still going at it.
Oh yeah, they actually are. Burns has caught back up to Searles, so we've got two battles in the same area of track at the moment. And Searles will have the benefit of a bit more front downforce. Not as much draft as the guys behind him, so it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this position from here. But I tell you what, it looks to me like, at the very least, Christopher Norton has gained a bit of pace back from Matthew Clote, because over 1/10 quicker. And running wide in turn 1 to search for a little more grip too, so it's definitely a bit more mind game sort of stuff going on here as Searles and Burns are now very close through turn 2.
Yeah, they're really, really close. And that's actually something we haven't pointed out yet, is guys running either a little bit higher, whether it be half a car, or just turning in a little bit later just to have not so much aero push, so they can have that right-hand side wing plate, just give them a bit more downforce than they would if they were right tucked in that draft.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit of extra downforce on that right end plate is certainly going to do wonders for you at a track like this. So Searles has moved off the back of... Searles has actually managed to gap Burns now, and it's now a proper fight between Burns and Norton believes he has the run, but obviously no grip now on the inside there, so Burns was able to hold it very nicely.
Yeah, he was, and that's actually something you, as a driver, you have to take into, well, think about a little bit, because if you do turn in shallower than the other guy to think about making a move, it's actually going to compromise you about roughly when you get to the mid-corner, when the other guy in front of you actually goes down lower from turning in a little bit later. So you've really got to think about your moves, especially at Pocono, where you're going to place the car in relation to the guy ahead of you so that you don't get that aero wash too badly.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, oh, Martin! Martin! What's happened to Martin? He's going very slow. Oh, he actually had a slide out of turn 3. Just took a bit too much curb on the inside, and the rear almost went on him. Very glad for him to not get into the wall, I would presume, but now he's back in 3rd place.
Yeah, that was a huge moment. He did very, very well to actually hold on to the rear of that car there. That's the difference that being in traffic and not being in traffic can do to the tyres, is that because you've got no aero protection, it's actually still sliding because of that massive slide. So that's actually one of the characteristics of the IndyCar that you don't want to do, is when you're on an oval, you really have to try and not slide the rear end, because once you have a bit of a slide, from that point onward, there is no real way of saving that rear tire or cooling it down in any way, because it's one of the most used tires. So you've either got two choices of really backing it off to try and bring the temp back down, which you do end up losing quite a bit of time and possibly quite a few positions, or optionally pitting and putting on a new set of fresh tires.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Martin has been passed once again by Dean Moll, so really losing out here. And as you said, Cam, he doesn't have a chance as Alexander Sheridan on the fence. And that is a caution, not in the fence, I should clarify, on the fence. And that is in the middle of turn 3. So he's promptly escaped back to the pits, and I think this has given Martin the this is the godsend that Martin needed to get that rear tire back under control. That incident was actually quite a long one for Sheridan. He got into the wall out of turn 2 and then was unable to turn into turn 3.
Yeah, when he hit the wall, it would have done a lot of damage to that right-hand side of the car, and similar sort of scenario to what we saw with Robert Wickens' crash. Not quite the right term, but a similar sort of situation to getting up on top of the wall.
Yeah, that's it. That's very unusual there. So Alexander Sheridan now out of the running. And there was no way that he could get that back to the pits either, so I don't think he'd even be able to use his fast repair and gain an advantage from it, because then he'd have to factor the tow time into it too. But either way, we are under caution once again as the leaders... Actually, the leader is now Uldis Puteklis, up from 12th to 1st. And so that's it on lap 61.
Yeah, we're already about a quarter of the way through, so we'll probably again see the entire field come in and put a new set of tyres on, refuel, and go again, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. We've already got drivers thinking about it. Down the inside on the run. So a lot to think about here at Pocono at the moment in the 500. So who is going to blink here? Puteklis making moves. Is it going to be a fake? No, it is not, and the entire field is going to follow him in here, so this is going to be absolute chaos here in the pits. It'll be interesting to see who benefits from all of this, as one car is staying out, and that is Martin Houston. Alexander Sheridan coming back out of the pits too, so we'll see who wins out here in the battle of the pit stops. Puteklis makes his way out, and whoa, hang on a minute. Goodness me, Josh Nowak, careful.
A little bit too much right foot there on the exit of the pit lane. Very easy to do with the way the cars are set up for ovals. So, but I do just want to point out that I do believe there might have been contact between Trevor Mack and Jason Martin on the entry to pit lane. It was very, very close, but and whether there actually was pit contact, I'm not entirely sure, but it was very, very close to being a bit of contact and possibly causing Martin a bit of damage.
Yeah, well, we're on a replay at the moment just to see what went on here from Mac's view. So Martin coming into the pits, he slows down, and oh, I tell you what, it was close, but I don't think it was contact.
Yeah, if it wasn't, it would have been very, very close. But yeah, one of those things that when you're coming into pit lane within a tyre field, you really do have to be aware of guys just checking up a little bit to get down to the pit speed limit.
That's exactly right. And on exit, we saw Josh Nowak almost run into the back of Dean Moll, but I believe the collision was still off at the time. And Jason Martin, we've just heard, has been given a rear of grid penalty. We're not quite sure what for. Oh, for speeding on pit entry, possibly. Well, we'll see. We definitely will see. The pit speed limit here is 89 kilometers an hour. So on entry, he was fine. I've just gone back and checked that now.
No, it looks like he was fine as far as entry and exit. So, yeah. Oh, I think I know possibly what it might have been. It
Passing
might have
under
been,
safety car.
yeah,
That's what it would have been. It would. Oh, mate. Yeah, it would have been something to do with the Noack and Mole incident, surely.
yeah, it must have been because I can't think of anything else. He didn't cross the blend line on the exit of the pit lane. He waited right until the blue line or blue cone. So, yeah, that's really, really strange.
Hmm. I can't imagine what could have caused that. Everything looked perfectly legitimate to me. Well, either way, Martin is going to have to fight his way back up yet again. This time from the rear of the pack. And Uldis Puteklis is going to lead the field away once the pace car re-enters the pits. So coming around to start, lap 64 of 200 in the Pocono 500, part of the International Division of the Majors Series, supporting Child's Play charity. Uldis Puteklis.
Oh, no, with a great... Oh, that's... You have to be careful about that because you can't pass on the left-hand side.
Yeah, certainly. That was a bit sneaky, I think, by Puteklis. He didn't go right away, so the field, I think, just jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of the things about over racing you have to be really conscious of is that on a restart, if you do get a jump, you can't pass on the left-hand side. You have to wait till the line if you're going to do that, or optionally, if it does go green and there is a gap on the outside, you can use that to get around the guy. So Josh Noack getting really caught out there on the restart, and same with a lot of guys actually, but it looks like for the most part everybody's made it through and there's been no incidents.
Yeah, that's really good to see. Correcting myself once again, it is Extra Life. I am terribly sorry, guys, but Uldis Puteklis maintaining the lead into turn 1. Meanwhile, Matthew Clote making a big move there up the inside of Jake Fox, who is rapidly losing pace at the moment. Oh, Daniel Stevens as well, looking a bit racy behind Joseph Cardamone.
And same with Norton as well. And Norton's actually going to get the both.
Oh, yeah, goodness me. Christopher Norton doing very well here at the moment, so he's up into third now. Oh, no, just keeping out of the wall there. So the field going single file. It's that kind of racing, isn't it? Very bated breath. Dwayne Burns. Bit of a run there as Daniel Stevens getting yet another spot. Oh, have a look at Burns versus Searles here. This is really heating up now.
Yeah, Burns is selling the dummy a little bit. He's actually just being patient and sticking behind, but he's got to be careful because Matthew Clote's going to be looking to make a move now up the inside into turn 1. He's going to slot back in just to get a little bit of draft, but he's going to look, no, not quite going to get the job done. No, he is actually going to go low.
Yeah, he certainly is, but will Burns be able to hold it around the outside? No, he certainly won't. Have a look at that run from Matthew Clote. That is insane pace through turn 1.
Yeah, really, really good move. And I actually thought he wouldn't have got it done with the fact that he would have had to have lifted out of it quite a bit, but he's actually got the job done fairly well. But Burns is going to come back at him in a minute, and he's poking the nose and trying to sell the dummy, and it's looking like he might get a good run down and heading into turn 1 actually. So Burns might capitalise and get the position back in the next lap or so.
Yeah, very close as we go 1/3 race distance complete. So 2/3 of the race yet to go. Matthew Clote in the draft of Oliver Searles. As meanwhile, Daniel Stevens making a move in the background on John King. So he's through once again. quite a few drivers starting on redemption drives at the moment, but Aldous Puteklis is holding it very nicely in first position. So from 11th back is where all the battling is at the moment. Michaelette and Rory Boyd.
Oh, Matthew Clote again.
Oh, goodness me, yes.
Clote's
So
doing a really
Searles.
good job actually moving through the field.
Yeah, he is. He seems to have that low line in turn one really worked out. Maybe he did a front wing adjustment at his pit stop.
Yeah, I think that might be the case because he was actually getting out-dragged a little bit by Oliver Searles down, heading towards turn 2. And now Dwayne Burns is actually going to look on that Oliver Searles. He's heading to turn 3 and Burns might take the position. Yeah, looks like he will. He's
Very
side by
close.
side.
Very, very close. But yeah, Searles maintaining that position. And have a look at Matthew Clote. He's making waves at the moment, trying to catch up to Noack. So that's definitely a car with a better front wing as Dwayne Burns manages to get through on Oliver Searles, but can Searles come back at him is the question I'm interested in. As Jake Fox and Dean Mole attempting their slice of the pie.
Clote was actually 2/10 a lap second quicker than Noack that lap, so he's got some massive pace in that car at the moment.
Yeah, certainly is. Oh, probably not with a slide like that. Just got the rear end out ever so slightly in turn 1. So he's not going to be too happy with that. The right rear tyre giving him a bit of grief. He's running on board with Dean Mole. He is behind this very intense battle pack of Jake Fox and Oliver Searles. You can see Dwayne Burns just up ahead. Now have a look at this. He's just lifting out of the throttle slightly, getting up into 6th gear. Not going to go for the move here in turn 1. But on the exit, maybe. We'll see. It's very hard to pick a line here at Pocono because once you're on the inside of another driver, it's very hard to determine where you're going to track out of the corner. So that's a challenge that Dean Mole faces. And Daniel Stevens is right behind him too, so he's right in the middle of a very fierce battle pack. He's catching up.
He's going to go for a move, actually.
Yeah, he certainly is. Coming into turn 1, is he going to have the grip on the inside? He actually backs out of it. Almost, but he maintains the inside.
He'll lose 2 positions, one with Daniel Stevens as well.
Yeah. So, probably a strategic maneuver here by Jake Fox. Catch a bit of draft. Because you could see that he was losing the draft of Oliver Searles. So, interesting to see what eventuates from that. Robert Northway is actually getting in on this too, if you have a look behind Fox. So, Northway, with his multitude of pit stops early on in the race, finds himself in 11th position.
He's actually done quite well to end up where he is at the moment, and he actually almost did run to the back of Fox the lap before when he got right up behind. So he's got some pace at the moment. He's just sitting in behind Fox, so he should be able all right to hang with Fox, who actually seems to be struggling a little bit with, not sure.
Jason Martin making a move down in the field. Yes, indeed. Well, Cardamone with the better exit out of turn 3. So Martin, obviously, in his position, he's definitely on a major recovery drive at the moment. He will be very frustrated at getting that penalty under caution.
Well, Martin's in the wall.
Oh, take it easy. Just a slight tap. Don't even know if that resulted in any particularly bad damage. Definitely ruined his run, so he's going to have to work hard to catch up to Cardamone again.
Yeah, I don't think it will give him too much damage, but it will just tweak the suspension or aero just enough to cause a little bit of imbalancement, and it's actually already done that because he's actually got the rear end sliding quite a bit on the exit of the corners, so he's going to have to be really, really careful here not to put it in the fence.
Yeah, what Martin will be banking on, I think, is another caution, because that'll give him the opportunity to get that repaired, get some extra tyres on the thing, and make another run, possibly at first position. Seems like a bit of a far-off fantasy at the moment. Meanwhile, Matthew Clote and Dane Burns fighting for 5th position up the front. And Burns' pace looks pretty good right now. He's right in the draft of Clote, and as we know, Clote is starting to suffer with the rear end a little, so Burns could really capitalize here.
Yeah, really cool. Although Burns is really starting to struggle with understeer now because of that aero push and the tyres starting to go away. So a little bit of a difference between these two and the way that they're handling the corners, but it'll be interesting to see who blinks first as far as pit stops go, especially with the way it's going. I'd say Clote would be the natural one to pit first with the fact that the rear end's going and it's a little bit easy to control understeer as far as Burns is concerned. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of pit strategy happens between these two.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, green flag pit stops, they are one of the most difficult things that you could possibly do in oval racing, especially if you're talking about the IndyCar. Obviously, the brakes of an IndyCar in road configuration are pretty good, but once you get onto an oval with the special suspension setup, the camber to drivers left on all sides, certainly makes for an interesting one, as Dean Moll in the draft of Oliver Searles. So this is going to be a move into turn 1 for sure, and that is going to be done quite easily. Only problem is now Moll doesn't have anyone to draft with, so Oliver Searles, I think, might be trying to fill that. No, he's just going to stay behind once again. Meanwhile, Matthew Clote, just noting, is the fastest car on track at the moment. His last lap, a 43.4, and he does another 43.4. So that is quite the pace from Clote right now. Obviously, he's gotten that right rear back under control, and he's making it work for him.
Yeah, he is. He's probably made an adjustment to either the rear anti-roll bar or possibly the weight checker just to get the car to be a little bit more balanced on the older tyres. So I'm not sure what he's done, but it's clearly worked quite well. And that's the thing about the IndyCar, is that you've got these different adjustments to make, whether it be the anti-roll bar or the weight jacker or something like that, just to bring the car back to how you want it, instead of being a little bit understeery or oversteery compared to what you usually have it at. So it's a really, really interesting car, and it does make it that much more interesting as far as the racing goes.
Yes, indeed. So Oliver Searles, Daniel Stevens, and Jake Fox currently embroiled in a fight at the moment, these three. Robert Northway could potentially factor into this as well. So Searles, having been well and truly left in the dust by Moll, who it seems is on a bit of a charge at the moment. He's actually starting to really gap him. It might be Searles just flat out losing pace, though. Have a look at the run. Yeah, that's pretty big. So that's going to be a move there for 8th position, as it's almost on for the lead as well. Trevor Mack catching up to Uldis Puteklis. Mack almost 2/10 faster, actually over 2/10 quicker on that last lap. So we've got a proper battle for the lead going on here. Meanwhile, Searle, Stevens and Fox continuing to fight it out. Stevens unsuccessful in his bid to take 8th place from Oliver Searles, and so now both himself and Fox have been held up. And that's one thing that you really got to think about, Cam, when racing a track like this, is you don't want to get too in too hard of a battle, because as you can see, it's very easy to lose a lot of ground to the guys in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things about any sort of oval racing, is that on a track where you've got to manage traffic, you've got to take a step back sort of and think about what battling is going to do and whether it's going to help you or not, and whether you've actually got to try and get ahead or whether you can afford to sit behind, because you don't want to lose that draft too much to either the guy ahead of the driver you're battling that's in front of you, or have the person behind you get your draft. So it's a really interesting game that you've got to think about, and it really does. Those who actually do think quite well actually do succeed a lot in oval racing.
I certainly do. One of those thinkers, it seems, is Robert Northway, who is now right on the back of Jake Fox. So he's going to want a piece of this. Northway still running in 11th place, but potentially looking at a top 10 here.
Yeah, he is actually. So I reckon he'll be pretty happy if he actually got onto the top 10. So we'll see what happens as we tick over to lap 85 of this 200 lap race. It's been a long one, but we're getting there near and closer to halfway, as Stevens is actually running quite high compared to Fox. Looking at this little battle now, Fox is actually going to have a run on Daniel Stevens here.
Yeah, he certainly is. Stevens running that high line, as we've been discussing, to try and get that that cool track with a little less rubber on there, bit of extra grip. It seems to be working out well for him so far. You can see Jake Fox going for all the way to the inside, actually running up onto the curb, but he is just not getting the run that he needs. Meanwhile, Stevens is very content to just stay a lane or so up. Oh, Jason Martin. Jason Martin off at turn 3, and that is some pretty major damage for him. That's our pole sitter, Cam. That's pretty dramatic.
Oh yeah, he's actually done that just from clipping the apron through turn 2. Like we were talking earlier, you touch that apron and you're pretty much going to be in the wall. So really, really big moment, and really unfortunate for him. He's actually done very well not to end up spearing back across the track and into the outside wall, but that's really, really unfortunate for Jason. And I think he may have his fast repair still available, but if he doesn't, it'll be day done for him.
He does.
And he does.
Fortunately for him. So he's got a brand new car there, some extra tires. But once again, that's a green flag stop. So he has lost quite a bit of time out of that and will have to bank on a caution.
Yeah, he'll have to hopefully bank on a caution. He'll either want it to happen in the next few laps, or he'll want it to happen after he gets by the front guys when they pit under green, or when they pit under pit. So it's going to be really, really tough for Jason to try and recover, as he's now a lap down because of it. It's usually a lap that you lose when you do pit stops under green flag. As now Northway comes in a pit lane, so we're going to start to see guys making green flag pit stops, and a lot of guys around in the middle pack. Whoa!
Leader was in the wall out of turn 1. Uldis Puteklis, I noticed he was already carrying a little bit of damage to his front wing just then, so this is not optimal for him at all. Trevor Mack is going to go by into the leader race. What happened to him?
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's gotten the damage earlier, but just that old tyre factor and it just causing a bit of understeer, unfortunately. So he's come into pit lane, and I believe Clote has as well. So
yes,
more green flag pit stops.
Meanwhile, Norton in the lead. That's curious. Trevor Mack actually falling back to second. So it looks to me like Dean Moll and Dwayne Burns getting close too, but this battle is well and truly on for the lead. Or is it? Have a look at Robert Northway with the major run here. Remember, he's in 15th place. He's just taken a green flag pit stop. He's got new tyres on that thing. So that right there, Cam, is the pace difference between new and old tyres. It's pretty extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this hot weather, it just makes an absolute massively difference, and it's night and day because of how much wear and heat your tires have. So it's a massive difference, and guys are going to have to be really strategic now that we're having green flag pit stops and thinking about possibly pitting as late as possible without it leaving it too late, and having the guys that use the undercuts. Norton almost in the wall from that aero push from Northway. So yeah, guys are going to have to be really, really strategic about when they pit and make sure not to leave it too late or make it too early.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, our top three are continuing to stay out at the moment, as I'm seeing Rory Boyd making his way out of pit lane 2, so it's another name to tick off the list. Meanwhile, Daniel Stevens making his way around Joseph Cardamone. No, Josh Nowak. My apologies. So Stevens rather pacey as Alvarez jumping into the pits as well. A lot of drivers in the midfield going for those early-ish green flag stops. Try and get a leg up here. A little bit of extra pace. Jake Fox, though, passing Oliver Searles into turn 1. 10 cars still left to pit as Alexander Sheridan is just getting up to speed now through turn 1. So our top 4 have yet to make this green flag stop, and have a look at Daniel Stevens' huge run, and I tell you what, this may very well benefit him when the top 4 eventually pits. Northway too.
Yeah, for sure. And just doing a little bit of calculation, those who have pitted around lap 90 are, if we continue to go green, they're going to be doing their final pit stop roughly with about 20 laps to go compared to those who are still out there. So those that are still out there are going to have that slight edge with the tyres, with it being the overcut working for them. So we'll see what the rest of this race brings out, as Norton's now in the pit lane, and
that's curious.
Everybody stays out.
Yeah, that's very curious. Mack and Noack did not follow him in. I don't know whether that's going to work out well for them, but Norton now coming into the pits. There's going to be a tyre change and fuel. Actually, very short stop there. A little bit of a splash of fuel. So Norton coming out of the pits. We'll see if Mack and Noack follow him in this time around. They're just coming out of turn 3. They're going to stay out wide once again. So these guys are going as long as they possibly can. Well, Norton, it seems, is going to hold on to the effective lead here.
Yeah, because he's coming ahead of Pateklis. No,
Oh.
Pateklis is actually going to go up the inside.
Wow, that
Norton
was
right out on the grey.
Oh, careful, guys. And here we go. Norton actually not with the pace that he would have wanted. Have a look at Daniel Steven. Oh, sorry, Matthew Clote. My apologies. Goodness me. That was a pretty courageous attempt to move up the inside, but Aldis Puteklis has got the... Oh, no. Yeah, we have 2. What was that for?
And Rory Boyd.
Oh. Yeah, Joseph
Cardamone
involved in that too, yeah. Oh, that's a real shame.
Oh, Jason Martin was actually very close to being involved in that as well.
Very, very close to being a real major incident. Joseph Cardamone just going straight down on Rory Boyd there. So we've got an onboard from Jason Martin's point of view just to show you how close that was. Very close. As we go back live now.
Cardamone's actually stayed out, and the reason he's done that is so he doesn't go down a lap. So this will actually keep Cardamone in the fight, and it'll actually help Martin as well, because you'll get that lap back. So a lot of guys will actually take advantage of this safety car because of their earlier pit stops.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the guys that have just pitted may not be at a great advantage here. Well, we'll find out what happens as the drivers come around to take the green flag. But I think for now, we should take a quick break here on V8's Online. You are watching the Pocono 500, supporting Extra Life, part of the international division of the Majors Series. Welcome back. Once again, you're watching the International Majors the Pocono 500 in the IndyCars. We are just about to hit half race distance, and we are an hour and 38 minutes in. Things have certainly picked up, Cam, as we near the end of this caution.
Yeah, for sure. There's been all sorts going on in this race, and with the end of this caution coming up, it's going to be very, very interesting to see who is going to do what with these new tyres and load of fuel as we are underway.
Yeah, we certainly are, and oh, that's curious. Very curious. Looks to me like Daniel Stevens really got a slow start, and he actually lost a few positions. Sorry, that was Matthew Clote. Once again, I'm getting those cars confused. Why can't you run liveries that are at least a little different, guys? Come on. You're making my job hard here. But, but Aldous Puteklis with a really big lead now, and have a look at Robert Northway. Huge, huge run. And he is going to take second place here. Oh,
you can see in the back.
Ouch! That was almost bad. So Robert Northway getting back in behind Norton. So now the cork in the bottle is Daniel Stevens at the moment, it seems, with his teammate alongside him coming onto the start-finish stretch. Lap 100.
Okay.
As now the it always seems to be like the top 3 or 4 gets a big getaway and they really spread out, but it's like 5th back that seems to be the best for action at the moment. Have a look at Josh Nowak, who led a major part of this race. He's looking to make some moves as well. But he's down on the inside into turn 3, so he may not get the run that he needs. Clote holding that outside line very well as Dwayne Burns trying to go for a move, or he's going to get a move done on him. That's Dean Moll. Oh. Nowak, though, holding the inside in turn 1, and have a look at the run, or lack thereof, that Matthew Clote has. Oh, this is a bit dicey. Oh, Matthew Clote again with a poor run off the turn. His exits don't seem to be down.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but he's just really struggling to keep up with these guys at the moment, and he's almost made contact with Burns in the wall there, so not 100% sure what's going on with these. Burnt his tyres up a little bit too much, or what the story is, but he's really losing a lot of places, and he's losing a huge amount of time at the moment.
Certainly is. Northway slow as well. He's just lost 2 spots there to Trevor Mack and Josh Nowak. So, oh yeah, have a look. Right through turn 2, you could see him losing a bunch of time. Oh, goodness. Matthew Clote is not having a good time here. He's losing positions. Left, right, and centre. Cardamone, Searles, and now Clote's battling with Martin, and Clote looks like he's actually got some front wing damage.
Yeah, he actually does, so
pretty intense front wing damage.
Yeah, that's actually quite a lot, and that's going to impact him massively.
Yeah, it certainly will.
Oh, that's from contact with Burns as well.
Oh, well, that's intriguing. But Burns, it seems, has a tiny bit of front-end damage as well. But at least these guys are still going. It is very, very minor. But at the moment, quite comfortable in the lead of this race is Aldous Puteklis. Second is Christopher Norton. Trevor Mack in third. Josh Nowak in fourth. Robert Northway's made his way up to position 5. Daniel Stevens holding off Dean Moll at the moment for 6th place. And the rest of the field seems that they have settled into a nice rhythm. Robert Northway, interesting stat here, he's made 15 pit stops in this race.
And he's sitting 5th.
And Nowak has made 3.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has ever done that before.
especially in only 100 laps at Pocono. Just goes to show, doesn't it? Doesn't really matter what kind of pit stop you need to have done. As long as you can get it done under caution, then you're in with a chance. So single file for now. Currently on board with Jason Martin, who is chasing down Matthew Clote. Quite a rapid rate, actually. He's making good time on him down this stretch. But when it comes to turn 3, Clote's going for that early apex. And Martin's just losing out a bit there. Just listening to his engine, it doesn't seem like he's able to keep the momentum up through that turn.
Yeah, and that's the effect that the Euro push has. So he's possibly not quite shifting down a gear that he could, as Martin getting very close to the wall there. But yeah, it's really, really hard with the amount of Euro push that they've got at the moment to keep the momentum up and not lose too much out of the engine power. So it's actually rather interesting that Martin's actually not quite able to get past Clote, who's actually got damage to that front wing. So maybe Martin's made a change to the front wing and it's not quite working to his advantage. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because as we know, Martin was the pole sitter, and his last pit stop was, I believe, under that last caution. So I'm curious as to why he has such a lack of pace relative to Clote. It could definitely very well be a wrong front wing setting. Meanwhile, we've got a pack forming behind Robert Northway. He's currently got, coming up behind him, Daniel Stevens, Dean Moll, Dwayne Burns, and Jake Fox. All in a bit of a line here. So Northway, with the mother of all runs in the last, I'd say, half stint. Oh, a little too much apron there in turn 2. That's ruined his run. So now Daniel Stevens will be looking to try and gain something on him here in turn 3. Just unable to. It looks to me like Northway has that inside line down pat.
Yeah, it really does. Now Stevens is going to look for a move up the inside of Northway, though. It's looking like the move's going to stick fairly well, actually.
Looks to me like Northway gave it up a bit. Oh, a little bit of a slide from Northway. Just managed to recover that. He's got a good run, hasn't he? Very good run. So, proper battle here, but it's not really benefiting them versus the drivers in front, because have a look at Dean Moll. He's carrying so much momentum here, and he's going to get through on... Yeah, he may very well get both. Northway will protect the inside here. You can see Moll obviously not running as much front downforce as Stevens, because on that greasy inside line, he's just lost out majorly.
Yeah, he has, and he's not been able to carry that momentum either, so that's cost him quite a bit. But this little battle pack for 5th place is actually looking quite good.
It definitely is. So Robert Northway up from 22nd to 5th, and he is well and truly mixing it with these guys who have started inside the top 5, and you can see he's gained a bit of an advantage now from Moll battling with Stevens, and look who is in the mix now, Dwayne Burns.
Yeah, for sure. Burns is right back in this, so it's starting to become a bigger and bigger train for this battle for the top, or just outside the top 5. So these guys really do have to think about it and just all work together instead of holding each other up.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely about working together at a track like this. You know, you've seen so many times in this race the amount of time that is lost when drivers decide to pass and repass each other into every turn. It's just not beneficial in any way, shape, or form. Really benefiting is Puteklis out in front, who is currently enjoying a lead of just under a second from Christopher Norton, but they are not far off pitting again. Remember, they can only go 30 laps on a set of tyres or thereabouts. It's very hard to go further than that, and they are on lap 24 of that stint.
Yeah, so they'll come back in the next few laps to put a new set of bags on and fill back up. So we'll see who actually jumps who and what sort of strategy anybody else wants to play and whether we're going to actually see anybody try the overcut and actually possibly retake this lead.
Yeah, that would certainly be an interesting turn of events, if not a little expected. But Mole and Northway really drawing up close to each other now. This is helping Josh Nowak quite a bit. Mole, you can see, he's had enough of that inside line. Just unable to get the momentum he needs going down low, so he is forced to go high.
Yeah, the tyre will be starting to play a bit of a factor into that, needing to change line or getting very close to the wall. But yeah, the tyre wear will be playing a bit of an impact on the need to change the line because you can't really hold it down there the whole way around and not lose any momentum on the older tyres. So he's going to have to really think about this, and while he's had to jump up high to keep the momentum up, he's really got to think about it and try and get a good exit while not being held up by Northway Zero Push.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think it's already obvious to us that Mole is not running as much front downforce as Northway is, so the effect would be even more exacerbated in the draft. You can see he's really falling back there, going for the late apex in turn 3. Northway actually having a little bit of trouble on the exit there, so it's brought Mole back into it. So this is very close between these guys now. Mole going straight to the inside, running the yellow line. Little bit of a slide there. You are right on the edge. You can see the wheel correction there, but Mole has, yeah, fantastic run on Northway, and that is move well and truly done. I would presume Northway didn't have any defense.
Yeah, wow, he did a really, really good move. He actually gained quite a bit of time as well on Northway there, and Northway is actually losing a heap of time. So I think Northway may have burnt his tyres up a little bit much here, and Mole's actually looked after them, and he's managed to get Northway quite a bit.
He certainly has. Remember, Mole pitted 10 laps after Northway did, so that will explain it a bit. Northway was the first of all the drivers to pit out of the current line of pit stops, and Mole pit under caution. So that's that explanation there. But I tell you what, Northway has certainly put up an incredible fight in this race so far to get to where he is.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He's driven a really, really smart and really clean race. He's had his ups and downs in this race, but he's done very well. We've got it on for the lead at the moment.
Yeah, we certainly do. Puteklis versus Norton. Norton has managed to halve the gap it was at just a few laps ago, and Trevor Mack is coming into it as well. Matthew Clote into the pits. Finally going to get that damage done. So the thing with Puteklis is the two guys behind him both have newer tyres, and Puteklis is going to be the first to blink there. In he goes.
Yes, so now it'll be about Norton and Mack, and who's going to blink first out of those two. Mack with the newer tyres over Norton as Clote's just exiting pit lane there, but Norton's going to have to really think about this, and if he does want to try and go a little bit longer, he's going to have to really not lose too much time to the undercut that Puteklis is trying at the moment. So this is going to be really interesting to see how much longer Norton stays out and whether this overcut is going to work or not.
That's exactly right. Well, Poteklis is now out of the pits. Stevens exiting as well. Northway in the pits too, so they've just exited. As Christopher Norton continuing to avoid the pits, as does Trevor Mack. So Jason Martin as well, the next to blink in this round of green flag pit stops.
Probably say that Jason's actually going to make a change to that front wing as well in this pit stop, just to try and help him get that little bit of pace back that he was missing in this stint that he's just done.
That would definitely be the sensible thing to do, I think. There isn't much chance of a caution left in this race, considering the amount of green flag running we've had in the last 50 or so laps. So it's entirely possible that Martin will just be banking on just flat out having a bit more front grip at his disposal to try and make up some positions.
Yeah, for sure. And I've also just noticed that Noak's actually closed that gap down to Mac at the moment. So he's just a little bit closer than he was a few laps ago. So Noak's starting to make some inroads on the guys ahead of him.
Yeah, he definitely is. Nowak with a 44.0 on the last lap. So actually losing a tiny bit of time to Trevor Mack, but that's neither here nor there in this situation. He's got Matthew Clote behind him, so Clote obviously one of the drivers who has recently pitted. So the next to pit, according to our man with the numbers, Director Jay Kennedy, should be Norton with his 28-lap-old tyres, and currently watching with bated breath because everyone else pitted under the last caution. That was 25 laps ago, so Norton, if he pits now and then a caution comes out... Oh, hang on a minute! Just a tiny bit too much apron in turn 2 for Norton. Really big slide, and that's opened him up to an attack from Trevor Mack. We'll see if Norton goes for the pits. Yeah, he's still staying out.
Yeah,
Have a look behind him.
Yeah, that's...
Nowak and Clote.
Clote's going to hold on to that position though, but Norton actually still with a bit of oversteer heading through these corners after that slide through turn 2, so he's really going to have to make a decision shortly as to whether he pits or not, as the last thing he want to do is end up in the wall. And massive difference, as you can see, from Mack, who's got a much stabler car.
Yeah, certainly. And whoa, yeah, big mistake there. That's a big slide, and he's gone right to the inside. He would have to pit now, surely. Those tyres have absolutely nothing left in them. There we go. Norton raises the flag and says, I am going to go for the pit lane. So that's going to be Trevor Mack assuming the lead of this race.
He's actually now got Matthew Clote right behind him, so this is going to be very interesting. Clote with the newer tyres because he's pitted, but this is going to be very, very interesting because Clote's still got the newer tyres, but whether the undercut's actually going to work is going to be the next question.
Yeah, that's it. Will Trevor Mack be able to take a quick enough stop to allow him to stay with Clote? Christopher Norton has just come out of the pits, meanwhile, coming through turn 1. Meanwhile, these guys are just on the run up to turn 1, so it may very well be on soon. Raul Alvarez going slowly down the back stretch. Meanwhile, Oliver Searles and John King are nose to tail. I think Raul Alvarez might have damage. going very slow at the moment. Not sure what went on there. He went into the pits. Huh. Down about 60 kilometers an hour in straight line speed. I don't know what has gone on there. That's very odd. He's just gone back up to full speed, so... Wow. How intriguing.
Yeah, very, very strange. And I also just want to point out that, and here comes Seals past King. I also just want to quickly point out that Dean Miles actually just got past Noack about a lap ago, and now he's going to come under pressure from Dwayne Burns.
Noack going very slow in terms of lap time, and on my end at least, he looks to be having some technical glitches. And Burns is going to go by. A 45.1 was Noack's last lap, so big loss of pace there. Not quite sure where that's come from. A 45.8 on that one, so what is happening to Josh Noack right now? 2 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, I'm not sure what actually is going on. He's obviously got some internet dramas going on at the moment, but I'm not 100% sure what the problem is.
Either way, it's certainly not something that he'd want given his current circumstances. He is still running within the top 5. Meanwhile, Trevor Mack remaining out front with no pit stop in sight for him as Jake Fox just went past Josh Noack there. Another 45-second lap from Noack. So, Norton, a 43.2 we're hearing. So, Noack very much off the pace. I don't know what is going on.
Tires?
He's
maybe?
only going 320 kilometers an hour down the back stretch. He should be hitting 350, surely. Could he have damage? Look at this. Jason Martin going right on by. Joseph Cardamone staying behind. What's going on?
Yeah, Martin's just blown by. I'm not sure what's actually happened there. The lap time isn't really showing that he's hit the wall or anything, but...
What?
Yeah.
What is going on? 45.9. What?
That might be it, fuel saving, because if you think about it, it's 30 laps to a stint, so you end up pitting with about 20 laps to go.
Interesting.
And the
So
lap
Noack
times
intentionally lifting off.
possibly, or even lower, or even a lower fuel map as Cardamone goes on through, but the lap time started dropping on lap 122 of his current run, so I'd say there's probably been a bit of fuel saving going on.
Very interesting that he'd choose to do it in this manner, though, because he doesn't have a draft, as we have 70 laps to go. He doesn't have a draft. He doesn't have anyone in front of him to help him fuel save. So he's trying to get a certain lap number before he pits, so he only has to do 2 stops to the end. Meanwhile, Dean Moll and Dwayne Burns are in. So Noack only needs to do this for another 9 laps before he can get home on 2 more pit stops. I find it especially intriguing that Cardamone is playing along with this and doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's really strange and an interesting strategy, but the time loss would surely be too much from all the fuel saving.
Yeah, surely. I honestly don't know what this could mean. I mean, Pateklis is only... There we go, Noack into the pits. So Whoa, Cardamone! Wow, okay. So that's obviously not intentional there from Cardamone. Just locked it up on entry into the pits. But we'll go to a replay of that quickly to see what happened to Cardamone. But I'm just confused right now at what Josh Nowak is playing at here. Because it won't be 2 stops to the end for him now, surely. Unless he tries to make those tyres last a little bit longer, maybe banking on a caution?
Maybe.
Huh. Well, everyone has pitted now. So, that's the field cleanse once again. Aldous Puteklis leading by 5.5 seconds. Huh. So, closest battle right now is Northway versus Norton. They're about half a second apart. Meanwhile, Daniel Stevens versus Dean Mole here. This is closer. So these guys have certainly got something to play for. Started in the top 5, did both of these guys, and they are running more or less around the cusp of that. Dean Mole, it seems, with a little bit of extra entry pace right now. Have a look at the pace he's got in the draft here. This is going to be a move into turn 1. Fairly easy one, I would wager. Stevens doesn't look to want to try and come back at him that much. Stevens is on 16-lap-old tyres, Mole on 3-lap-old tyres. So these guys are basically running different strategies. It's probably in Stevens' best interest to stick behind Mole, draft a bit. Keep that pace up. I'm still repeating in my mind, though, Nowak's very strange driving and what it could possibly mean.
Yeah.
I mean, one more stop from here, I would say, is doable, but by the end of it...
really look after the tyres,
yeah,
though,
he would. He would.
They'd burn off. He's actually going to get moved done on Martin here, and he's just going to put him into 10th, but he's lost a huge amount of time.
Lap 168, a possible final stop lap. Puteklis, meanwhile, has to pit twice more. So, I mean, if Nowak can... I don't know. On for second at the moment, Northway and Norton, but Nowak...
Well, he can't pit on lap 168 because you can't go 32 laps on a tank. You end up being 3 litres short. So he's either banking on a safety car or he's going to really have to fuel save.
And tyre save as well.
Yeah.
That car would certainly be in bad shape by the end of both of these upcoming stints for Nowak. So, well, we've gone over the reasons why it couldn't work. I suppose now we just have to sit back and wait to see if Josh Nowak has an ace up his sleeve.
Lap 270 is the latest he's going to be able to pit, but he's going to have to fuel save a little bit because he's going to be a litre short if he does pit on 170, but it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of strategy this is with the fuel numbers and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, one caution brings Nowak back into it. So, obviously, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we've had a very good green flag run through the middle section of this race, so banking on a caution at this point, I don't know if that would be the wisest thing to do. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, everybody's been pretty patient and contained throughout the rest of this race so far. And a caution I can't really see happening with the way it's been going in the last handful of laps. So, yeah, this is going to be really, really interesting to see what Noak's got up his sleeve. And in fact, what Kinetic have got up their sleeve, because a lot of people are currently scratching their heads right now.
Yeah, they have. Meanwhile, Daniel Stevens in the pits, he was going slow. Only did 20 laps on that stint. Maybe he's trying to get on strategy here for a one-stop run to the end, is Stevens. So Dwayne Burns goes on by into position 6. So as we get to the end of this race, the strategy cards begin to be played, and we stroke our chins, wondering of the implications. This is the kind of stuff that I really like oval racing for, honestly.
Yeah, it is, because you can't really guess who's going to win, because there's so many variables, from safety cars to tires to fuel to weather to all sorts. It's really mixes things up, and it makes it so interesting and unpredictable.
Well, Daniel Stevens, currently having made his, I would presume, second to last stop, is now trying to make his way past Robert Northway, but not having much luck. Oh, look at Martin Houston as well. Houston, that's for position between him and Stevens, so looks like a fairly easy slide on by from Daniel Stevens. Oh, goodness me, Houston, not a good run through turn 2. He is struggling on those tires. Those tires are actually getting to the later stage of their life. Oh, yeah, Northway into the pits. So he's obviously had enough of this for now. He pitted on lap 118, so pit stop number 17 for Robert Northway, and he will be looking to make one more stop after this one as well. Clote also in, so this will be the second last round of pit stops if the race stays green from now. Oh, that's a very odd angle for Clote to enter the pits at. Car doesn't turn right as well as it does turning left, so Clote obviously having a little bit of difficulty there.
Yeah, really, really strange angle to have been parked there. He's actually lucky to have managed to get service, as an angle like that usually results in not having service, and you have to reposition the car. So he's actually got away with that quite luckily, actually.
Well, he's come out further down the field now, and now the next person to pit will be Martin Houston, who, thanks to his misadventures, I presume through turn 2, is carrying a bit of damage. Fortunately, he's going for the pits to get that repaired, top up his tank. Meanwhile, Jason Martin, a race of what could have been for him, I suppose. Up till now, at least, things could definitely change for him in these last 67 laps. A pack forming behind him, as Norton actually taking his stop in amongst all of that. Alexander Sheridan, John King, and Oliver Searles. King and Searles are... Whoa! Hold on, that is not optimal. He's going to actually lose out majorly. So, it was King and Searles that were full position there.
He was actually very lucky to hold on to that. He got really out of shape. He was looking like he was actually going to end up spinning out and ending up in the wall there. So did very, very well to hold on to that.
Yeah, he certainly did. Oh, Martin, another slide, this time out of turn 3. So those tyres, I think, are well and truly hosed. Meanwhile, on for the lead, Trevor Mack and Dean Mole. Is Mole trying to use that inside line, that early apex, just not working at the moment, but can he catch up in the draft? He certainly can. Dwayne Burns not far behind for P3 as well.
Yeah, Burns will catch up fairly quickly. He's done a 43.9 in the last lap, so he's got some decent pace, although running a little bit wide, although the car seems to be working in that middle groove through turn 1 at the moment, so he's got some good pace and he's positioned the car quite well, so she's actually catching these guys rather quick, so we could see a three-way battle for the lead in the next lap.
Yeah, we certainly could. These guys are going to have to pit twice more to get to the end of the race. 15 laps left in the stint at the moment for all 3 drivers. So they're all effectively on the same strategy here.
Just listen to Burns there. He had to really get out of the throttle not to end up in the wall there because of the amount of aero push he had. So as he's getting closer and closer, it's all well and great that he gets close enough, but then there's just that aero push that takes away that front grip and he has to really back out of it. So this is going to have to be a real bit of thinking from Burns here to see how we can try and catch up to these guys and sit right behind them without burning his tyres up.
Yeah, and it's going to be on for the lead there. Mole through to the lead of the race, and I've just noticed that Trevor Mack is actually carrying a bit of damage to his right rear. So that may or may not be a factor in that particular battle. But Dean Mole in car 31, now your race leader.
Yeah, that damage will have a little bit of an impact for Mac, but it won't be too major. It'll make it a little bit difficult to keep up with Mole ahead of him, but...
Oh, Jason Martin!
Whoa!
Martin spun! And that's going to be caution. So this is the caution that Noack... Oh, no, it is not still green. It is a caution. Most definitely a caution. Jason Martin... I tell you what, that is the caution that that Josh Noack, I think, would have been hoping for.
Yeah, I think that's just helped out a lot of guys, especially Noack, who is hoping, well, trying to use a strategy of fuel saving, and that'll definitely have brought him back into this. So this is just turn this race upside down. We're going to have probably 49 to 48 laps to go when we go green, but yeah, that's just turned this race completely upside down for a lot of guys and helped a lot of guys as well. So this is going to be all on for the last quarter of this race.
Yeah, certainly, and a real shame for Jason Martin because he's been having trouble all race effectively since his pit penalty. Just major trouble with those tires, and he was coming up to the end of his stint anyway, so the tires were at the end of their operating life. Big shame for him. Meanwhile, it seems to me that Matthew Clote has had some pretty major issues coming out of turn 1.
He has actually escaped.
Oh, I think that might have been a hardware issue. He actually steered right into the wall down the straight.
Yeah, that was really weird. It just something went right. That was really bizarre. I'm not sure whether that was a wheel failure or what happened, but that was really, really strange, and unfortunately that's put him out.
Yeah, that would definitely have been a hardware issue of some kind, because that's certainly something you don't see happening often. I think that's very disappointing for Clote, because he was one of those guys in contention for the win.
Yeah, it was actually, and it's a real shame because he had some really, really good pace actually compared to a number of these guys. So he'll be really gutted that that's happened, and especially under caution. So he'll have to, if he does have a spare car, get back out there and try and score some points. But that win or podium is now completely gone.
It certainly is. Well, this may very well be the final caution period of the race. We got 50 laps to go here, and I honestly, if people have only one pit stop to go, they certainly wouldn't want to take it now because they wouldn't make it home. So I don't know if you'll see many drivers going for the pits here.
May see, but the top four haven't pitted yet, so they'll probably have to come in, and it'll be interesting to see what happens from this point, because a lot of guys probably won't want to get divert from their strategy.
Yeah, certainly not. Dean Moll is the leader of the cars that pitted. Mike Ouellette is going by the pace car. Come around to the back of the field. There are 14 cars remaining on the lead lap here, so fair amount with 50 laps to go here at Pocono.
Yeah, actually not too bad of a number, but Houston, Northway, Searles, Noack, and Fox all get a wave around, I'm pretty sure. Never mind.
The lights are out on the pace car. And eyes, I think, will definitely be on Josh Noack and what he can do from here. Because he's only going to have to pit once more.
Yeah, he's going to really have to think about this, especially with all the guys behind him that have new tyres that have just recently pitted. And actually, everybody's now effectively on the same strategy, because everybody's going to have to pit pretty much one more time to get home. So that fuel saving is actually not really helped a lot for Josh Noack.
Yeah, very, very curious. However, it is time once again for the field to take the green flag. Jake Fox is going to lead them away. Single file at Pocono. Pace car in, and Jake Fox going early. Noack responding very well. Believe they... Oh, whoa, hold on! Well, that lasted long, didn't it?
I think Norton might also have a penalty because he's passed before the start-finish line.
Oh, my goodness. Martin Houston. Wow. I am speechless.
That was very bizarre. And it actually looked like a bit of netcode as well.
Okay, well, looks to me like it was just another similar incident to what we saw at the start of the race. Northway was just slow off the start. Houston backed off a bit, and Mole made rear-end contact. From then on, there was nothing Houston could do.
Norton was actually really lucky to manage to avoid the flipping car of Houston there, of not actually hit him. So he's done very well, but I have a very bad feeling he actually has a penalty for passing on the inside before the start-finish line. So if he does, it's really going to have killed his race.
Yeah, not to mention the fair bit of front nose cone damage he has at the moment. So Dean Moll had a very good run up to this point, but unfortunately, that may very well be in jeopardy. Well, for now, though, we're going to take one final commercial break here. The International Majors, the Pocono 500 here on V8's Online. Your current leader is Jake Fox. Back soon.
3, 2, 1.
Last year, I was sitting at a desk as a sales manager, and now I'm official McLaren F1 simulated test driver.
Magnussen is 1.4 behind.
This opportunity is huge.
That's faster than the factory McLaren driver, and he's done 6 laps.
Let's go race.
International division of the Majors Series, the Pocono 500. We are currently on lap 155 under caution, and we have 1 lap to go until we go green again. We've seen some incredibly interesting strategy calls in the last 50 laps, one of which being Josh Nowak, who is running a very bizarre line, it seems, down the back stretch. So Nowak stands a chance of doing very well here, Cam, if he can get that final pit stop done and dusted cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely. But he does have to remember that a lot of guys behind him do have brand new tyres from pitting on the previous safety car, which was only just a few laps before this. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least, to see how his strategy is going to work out and whether it actually does pay off, because if his tyres don't go the distance that the rest of the field will do, then he's going to really struggle to keep up and possibly have any chance of winning this.
Intriguing times for sure in the majors, but now it's up to Jake Fox to get the launch that he needs, the launch that him and Nowak need. As we go green here, Fox has got a good run, Nowak not so good.
A penalty. So that confirms that Norton has a penalty.
Oh yes, Norton in the pits there, so certainly not what he would have wanted at that stage. Northway pressuring Oliver Searles for 3rd place. Meanwhile, in the background, Dwayne Burns jostling for position with Trevor Mack and with Joseph Cardamone. Daniel Stevens, John King, and Uldis Proteklis as well, all battling. So the drivers are well aware at this stage that it is definitely on for the checkered flag. Searles defending from Northway as Dean Mole is now back in this. Remember, he got a bit of damage as they go 3 wide behind him. That's Burns, Cardamone, and Mack. This is going to be a bit of a story to tell. Northway getting through as well on Oliver Searles. So lots of battling all throughout the pack. We've only got a short time left here. And Puteklis starting to make his way up. He's just made his way past Mac.
Yeah,
have a look at Dean Mole too.
Yeah, they're all coming through. They've got those new tyres and they're going to really want to use them to their advantage to try and get through this dirty air and middle of the pack to try and get back to the front, which is going to be really, really hard because they're going to use their tyres up quite a bit. So possibly Noak's strategy of staying out actually maybe wasn't a bad ploy after all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Mac and King are side by side here, and Daniel Stevens looking to get in on this as well. Outside into turn 2 at Pocono, though, doesn't usually work, and he has to slot back in behind.
Mole and Searles are side by side, though. Mole is going to go up the inside.
Oh, have a look right behind them. That's Joseph Cardamone. Wow! Cardamone with a good run there, but not as good as Searles off the final turn. So Dean Mole continuing to battle away, and he's going to have to make a bit of a recovery of his own. Remember, he got damage, causing the last caution. Looks like he may still have a bit less straight line speed than he'd have liked. Perhaps a bit too much downforce on the front wing at this stage.
And Cardamane's just dropped from the race.
Yes, too. I was right on him at the time, and I just blacked out. So King around the outside of Mac. Cardamone is going to have to deal with the consequences of that. They're going to go 3 wide again into turn 1. Meanwhile, that's Jason Martin and Alexander Sheridan up behind.
Stevens is on the inside.
Oh, goodness me.
Now Max is going to come back on him.
Yeah. Stevens getting 2 positions there. Excellent performance. So it's definitely back to those early stages of the race where drivers were just trading positions left, right, and center. Dean Mole has gotten by Oliver Searles in the last turn and actually gotten a bit of a run on him now. So we'll see if he can try and catch up to Northway, latch onto the back of the top 3. Interesting to note that that Pateklis is right in all of this. He's been up and down the positions all race, but now he's sandwiched in between Oliver Searles and Dwayne Burns.
He's actually led quite a bit of this race as well, so if he can just try and find a way by, he might actually be able to get back up to that front end of the field and possibly be in with a chance of winning this.
Well, he's definitely got the run on Oliver Searles right now. Could be going for the move into turn 1 here, but will he be able to maintain it? Searles with a bit more of an entry, but he just ran too wide there. Way too wide, I think. And that's given the position to Pateklis. So they've settled down again, if only for a brief moment. Jake Fox enjoying a sizable lead over his teammate. We have got one more round of pit stops to go. Oliver Searles may be one of the first because his tyres obviously not in the best shape. Bad run down the front straight, and that's going to allow Dwayne Burns through.
Cardamone's actually going to have a really good run from that momentum as well. So Seals might lose another position here and drop back to 8th.
Yeah, definitely a chance. Cardamone actually got some very good pace here. Obviously, he had that internet scare, so he may be a bit rattled by that, but he's doing very well to stay with these guys here in the top 8. Now have a look at Dean Mole. He's managed to catch right up to Northway in these ensuing few minutes.
Yeah,
Northway with a run on Noack too. Now this is interesting.
Oh, and Mole's going to look up the inside as well.
Oh, he had a good run there through the turn, but just wasn't able to get it hooked up on exit. Noack was just in the way. Have a look at Mole on the inside. Clip the grass there, really using all of the track available to him, but you can see that Mole really likes that inside line now. He may be going for it here. See what happens. Noack is wise to it, though. He covers him. But Mole, with just that little bit of run in the third quarter of the corner, but look at Pateklis.
Yeah,
right
he's
behind.
running.
So Pateklis and Mole currently on the same strategy with regards to tyres, but all the drivers around them are on older sets. So these guys definitely with the pace advantage at the moment, but it may very well disappear very soon. Cardamone versus Stevens, meanwhile, for 8th position. Stevens making his case. And through he goes. Cardamone actually with what looks to be a tiny bit of damage to his rear wing.
Well, Pateklis looking up the inside of Mole.
Oh, he is too. Not quite able to get it done, though. 34 laps to go, and this is really benefiting Robert Northway. He's just running away with this second place. And Mole looking racy as ever versus Noack. Going for the middle. Maybe a car width up.
Pateklis has to be careful here because Burns is actually not too far down the road from him.
No, certainly not. Another battle at the moment is Searles, Cardamone, and Stevens. These three have all come together. They're almost sharing the same bit of road coming through turn 2. Oh, have a look here. Josh Noack going defensive against Dean Mole. But Mole with the run, and he's going to go for this move here up the inside. Can Noack hold it around the outside? No. Those tyres just not up to scratch. 36 laps old. So Noack on one of the oldest sets of tyres in the field. And have a look at Pateklis. Is he going to try and make it through here? He's going to go for the inside turn 2. Don't go 3 wide into turn 2, guys. Thank you very much. That could spell disaster for all of you. And now Noack going majorly defensive against Pateklis. So you can see Noack has got his major defensive drive on, and that early apex. Oh, there we go. He's getting into the pit. That's his last stop. Jake Fox is in as well. So, oh, well, hang on a minute. What happened to Fox? He's gone backwards. Well, we're going to get a CPR kart parts replay of that. Jake Fox just completely looped it on pit entry.
Yeah, he just locked the rears.
That's odd.
So that's Fox out of the contention.
Yeah, well and truly. He ended up escaping back to his box as well, so no chance for him to make good on that.
Northland as well.
Oh yeah, as Noack goes out. So this is where it all gets intriguing. Drivers still battling out on track include fourth back Oliver Searles under major pressure from Daniel Stevens. A really long stop for Northway. He might have a speeding in pits penalty. Goodness me, he still stopped. 23 seconds. And he could have had a shorter stop than Nowak as well. He would have been really in contention to win. Oliver Searles. Oh, that's a caution. Ooh.
Yeah, so Northway actually was fine into pit lane, and then he just sped up a little bit too much. So possibly forgot to turn the pit limiter on.
Interesting to note whether Oliver Searles was able to make it into the pits before the caution. I don't know if he did. We're going to take a look and see who brought the caution out. Not Alexander Sheridan. That's an odd caution right there. Martin Houston. So that happened in turn 2. Martin Houston has not had a good race at all. 3 laps down and just getting into the wall at the exit of turn 2.
So this helps Nowak a bit because he was going to be a little bit, he was going to be short on fuel a little bit to make it to the end when he pitted. So this will help him, but now this is going to equalize the field because those who pitted earlier are probably going to pit now as well as everybody who hasn't pitted so they can make it home. So this is really going to equalize the field.
Certainly is. It'll be an out-and-out race right to the end here. So our leader, Dean Moll, on lap 172 behind the safety car. So effective leader when we go green should be Christopher Norton. Or Josh Nowak.
No, it should be no.
We will see. So top 10 at the moment are the ones that we're expecting to come into the pits. Dean Moll is going to lead them in here. A lot of drivers following them in too. So that's Dean Moll all the way back to Christopher Norton. That is the top 10, and the rest of the field is going to continue on as usual. They have the fuel to make it home. So Josh Nowak is our race leader once again, in the position that he was almost from the start of the race. Meanwhile, Jake Fox, who we saw have that loop into the pits, is going to get back onto the lead lap, so he may have a chance to salvage a result, Cam.
Yeah, he will actually. So very, very lucky that he has only gone on 1 lap down and the caution's come out when it has, because otherwise he would be well and truly out of this.
We'll go on one last break here at V8's Online before we take you for the run to the finish. This is the Pocono 500, part of the International Majors Series, supporting Extra Life. V8's online, the international majors supporting Extra Life. This is going to be the run to the finish. This is the 11th caution of this race, Cameron Dance, but we've certainly seen some good fights in between.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been all sorts going on, from fuel strategies to tire conservation to cautions to all sorts going on. And this is going to be one heck of a showdown with roughly 15 laps to go when we go green. So it's going to be every man for himself, and everyone's going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at it. So this is going to be a heck of a run.
Yeah, who knows? We might even see another caution before the end. Certainly hope not. But the pace car will be coming into the pits very, very soon. And Josh Nowak is your race leader. Robert Northway in second. Dean Mole is where he started in third. That's your top three right now. The pace car is going in. Josh Nowak hanging back a little bit, and then away he goes. Have a look at Northway. Northway absolutely nailed it. He's staying with Nowak here.
Yeah, and Mole caught sleeping massively to Northway, so Northway's going to have a really, really good chance of taking
Who's
the lead
that
off
going all the way
here.
to the end of the pit wall? That's Raul Alvarez. He's just gone to the back of the field. Sorry, Cam.
Yeah, well, Alvarez was a lap down, so he's letting everybody by. But yeah, this is going to be on for the lead between Northway and Nowak at the moment.
It certainly is. Northway, we've shown in this race so far, he's been a very spirited battler. He's very assertive. Have a look at Nowak. Big aggressive turn in there into the last turn. Using those new tyres to their full potential. Have a look at the battling behind them. Christopher Norton involved in this. Going on the inside of Trevor Mack. John King behind them, trying to make something happen out of this.
Mack ran a little bit wide, now King's going to get the run on him.
Yeah, he certainly is. So Mack obviously not in a good position there. It's a pity, actually. Mack was leading at one point in this race. But it's on for second, though. On for the lead, rather. Actually, between the top three, Northway, again, right behind Josh Nowak. And another battle that I'm noticing is the 666 versus the 389. Pateklis versus Stevens. Pateklis almost getting into the wall and getting that run off the turns. You can see Daniel Stevens is just unable to respond in a straight line.
Yeah, Stevens probably has a little bit more downforce than Pateklis does at the moment, so Stevens just conceding that position, but Pateklis now inside the top four, so he'll be on a charge to try and get back up to that front lot. He'll have Dwayne Burns not too far in front of him, so he should be able to, if he can, get into that podium contention, but he's got quite a gap between Dwayne Burns and the top three, so he's got a lot of work to do.
Trevor Mack falling behind Joseph Cardamone as well. That was for 10th place. There's a lot of drivers on a charge at the moment. Nowak is still maintaining the race lead. All that matters to him from now is looking after those tyres. Making sure that he doesn't do anything too rash, no sliding, nothing that can heat the tyres up any more than they need to be. And then he can let the guys behind him battle it out for themselves. Robert Northway and Dean Mole, speaking of, they're actually getting a bit closer together. As Daniel Stevens makes his way by Pateklis in the background.
Yes, they don't move Stevens back inside the top five, but really interesting that he's actually managed to get that move done. But now Pateklis is possibly going to try and come back at him on the exit of turn 3.
Oh, what is Stevens doing? Big weave there to try and break the draft. So you can see it's definitely on for these guys. And there's a lot at stake for them. They've been through a lot. Norton and King side by side down the stretch to turn 2. King is going to have this. And Norton is going to have to settle in behind, possibly with a good run, but have a look behind them. Joseph Cardamone on another charge. Josh Nowak crosses the line. We have 20 laps to go here at Pocono. Currently watching Joseph Cardamone. Yeah, look at that.
So turn 1, Norton running the high side. Is he going to hold on? He's right out in the grey, but he's going to hold on just and get the run on the exit of turn 1. But they're going to still be side by side. And I think Norton's just going to let Cardamone go, which he does as they come into turn 2. But now Norton with a run out of turn 2.
Not quite. Just had that run stymied there, with Cardamone taking the narrower exit. Seems like Christopher Norton just missed a gear, which is a shame for him, but looking further up the front, Josh Nowak starting to get under pressure here from Robert Northway, who seems to have gotten a bit of pace back. He's just losing it though, Cam.
Yeah, he's just doesn't quite have the edge. That aero push is just affecting him a little bit too much. He just needs to try and find a way to place the car so that he doesn't get too much aero push, which he's trying now by going high in to turn 1 and then trying a lower line on exit. And he almost had actually a little bit of a slide there on the exit of turn 1, but he's right in the draft of Josh Nowak now. So, but it's not quite enough to get him close enough because of how much aero push there is. So he's fighting a losing battle just about, so he's really going to have to work for it.
He definitely is. For the most part, it seems like the field has spaced out. Lap 184 started here. Big battles, it seems, are further towards the back of the pack. We have 15 cars still running here, or 16 rather. There's 14 still on the lead lap though, and they are involved in a bit of fighting. Jake Fox and Oliver Searles. Mike Ouellette not having a good run out of turn 2 in front of them though. So this could be a potential position here for Searles. If Ouellette can't hold the outside.
Yeah, Ouellette's going to get a good run from holding that high line at turn 3 and he'll hold on to that position, but Searles is going to have that draft getting into turn 1. He's going to pull out and looking up the inside as he goes down the inside, but Ouellette's going to hold at the outside and he's actually going to run that high line quite well actually, is still trying to keep the momentum up and he's actually just managed to slot in behind in the draft at the moment. So really close battle between these two for the minor positions at the back.
Yes indeed. Ouellette getting a good run through turn 2 that time. So he's protecting that position just a little bit, but Searles seems to have a bit more grip on the inside through turn 3. So this could potentially be a move into turn 1. Meanwhile, John King there getting by Jason Martin. So the positions are starting to be settled. Oh, Searles and Ouellette. That was close between those guys. And this is bringing Jake Fox right into it.
Yeah, Searles was just tracking up the racetrack just a little bit too much, and Olet actually did very well to actually get on by around the outside, as it was almost looking like Searles was going to end up in the wall.
Side by side.
Side by side.
Once again. Oh! Careful! Very careful. 14 laps to go, and it's on for these lower positions outside the top 10. Mike Olet versus Oliver Searles, as it's on for second as well. Dean Mole has caught back up to Robert Northway. The end of nearly 200 laps. This is how much cars are separated by. We've been racing for almost 3 hours here. Meanwhile, Trevor Mack, some dramas for him. He's had his internet drop out as Jake Fox now going up the inside of Olet into turn 1, but Olet, we've seen, can hold that outside line very nicely. He's got his car set up wonderfully to do that at the end of the race, and Trevor Mack is now out of the server, which is a real shame for him. Fox yielding to Olet.
And this has brought Sheridan into this as well. So, three-way battle for what is effectively 12th position.
It's a shame, though, because Sheridan is technically a lap down on these guys. So, unfortunately, it's not for position as Mole. Oh, Dean Mole, very close to hitting the fence. He's actually got a bit of damage on his front wing. He made contact with Northway. Coming into turn 1,
actually.
Just a little bit of contact. Oh, actually, he made contact twice. So you can tell Robert Northway is not willing to give up that second position.
Yeah, Northway is pushing very, very hard. It looked like actually Mole turned in a little bit too early, or Northway just dragged up the racetrack a little bit too much. But yeah, that's really, really unfortunate. But this is now going to get really interesting, because now Noak's now got lap traffic.
Yeah, he has. Not optimal for Noak. This is Raul Alvarez right here in front of him. Of course, he could have a draft, which is optimal, but then you've got the aero push.
And this
Alvarez.
Is back into it.
It is. But Alvarez is going to do the gentlemanly thing and let him go. He's going to do the same for Northway, probably for Mole too. But Northway is now right back into it. 10 laps to go. And Noak, you can see he's going defensive. He knows he's in trouble.
Yeah, that lap car's really affected him big time. And now Northway's right there to take the win if Noak does make a mistake. Northway running really wide there, getting close to the wall. But he's on a charge, and he knows that this win is there. He smells blood. He can get it if he tried.
Yeah, we've already seen how spirited his defense game is. What about his offense? 9 laps to go as they cross the line this time around. Northway losing out a bit on the exit of the last turn. He just doesn't have that momentum to carry through that final turn. He needs something else to happen to Noak if he wants to have any chance of taking this win. And he's going to have to defend really hard from Mole if he wants any chance to keep this podium. A little bit of a slide in turn 1 for Northway, and this is bringing Mole right into it.
Yeah, now Mole's right there, getting very close to the wall, actually, down the straightaway. But he's right there. He's actually got a little bit of damage to that front end, front wing, actually. So he's got to be really, really careful. It may actually be a bit of netcode damage, but I'm not entirely sure, as he's keeping up with Northway quite well here.
He certainly is. I think that front wing damage is from the couple of times he made contact with Northway a couple of laps ago, and he's letting Northway know that he is not ready to give up just yet. Staying a bit high in turn 1, staying 1 lane up. This is very much a top 3 battle for the win here, as, goodness me, Dean Mole almost getting into the wall yet again. And Northway, I can see, is starting to struggle with rear grip here. Noack with 0 interference from in front is running away with this at the moment. Meanwhile, Protectless and Stevens...
Oh, Northway!
Whoa, hang on, what? Oh,
Northway's lost
no!
out of turn 1!
Oh, no! That's a caution!
And he's hit the wall as well.
Oh,
He actually
what
would
a
have held
shame.
it as well, but there's a bump on the inside with safer barrier starts, and he's actually lost it over that bump.
Oh, the heartbreaking thing is he did that all on his own too.
Yeah.
Mole played no part in that.
So now the question is, who's actually going to win this?
Well, I tell you what,
Because
Noack's advantage is gone.
Yeah, because you've now got Burns, Paterculus, Stevens, King, Cardamone, and Norton all possibly in this, including Searles and Fox even. So, in fact, anyone on the lead lap could actually win this. So, it's going to be absolutely all on in the what's going to be probably about a 3-lap dash to the end.
That's it. We know it's not going to finish under caution. The absolute latest that we'll be able to go green is about lap 198, 199. So the drivers have one last chance here to reset and get themselves in a position to try and challenge Josh Noack for victory. Robert Northway exiting the server. Honestly, I don't really blame him. He was so close to taking second there, only to loop it.
As they say sometimes, you really got to win it or bin it in the end. And he really did try, unfortunately.
He certainly did. Well, excuse me. For the drivers left in this race, it largely depends on Josh Noack's launch. We've seen Noack go early a fair bit throughout this race. The only person to really hold back on a start was Paterculus. So we got 2 laps to green, and Dean Mole will probably be thinking he needs to try and get some kind of jump on Noack off the start. He may have to put all of his faith into Noack going.
Yeah, we have to really sit up behind the rear wing of Noack just to make sure that he doesn't lose too much of a gap if Noack does jump him. So he's got to be prepared to do everything he can to try and win this race. In fact, even these top 5 have to, because they're all within a shot of winning this.
That's exactly right. They're going to have to bring their A game right here, right now, at the very end. So just to update on the standings as they are now, the top 5 are Josh Noack, Dean Mole, Dwayne Burns with one of the bigger gains in the field from 10th to 3rd, Daniel Stevens in 4th, and up from 12th to 5th, Aldis Paterculus. And car number 73, he's already the championship leader. Oh no, Christopher Norton. He stopped his pedals. He's had a problem with his pedals.
Oh no.
So that's another runner out, and that was actually quite a large smash.
Yeah, he's done it on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, his pedals, having a look at what happened to him, that's certainly not an optimal thing to do. What on earth went wrong for him there? His pedals just completely went on him. So that is a real shame for Norton. He was just unable to get that thing recovered. He would have been one of those people with a chance. People dropping like flies right at the end. 1 lap to green.
I can hear people burning fuel.
Really?
People actually revving their cars to try and burn fuel because it's that sensitive to that much advantage. So this is going to be really interesting to see who's got what fuel loads and who's actually going to win this because of that fuel load and tires.
Oh boy. Certainly one for suspense, this. Oh boy. I am absolutely shaking right now after the race we've had for it to all come down to this. I think this is the race that we were all hoping for. So it ends now. The pace car will go in one final time here. It's going to be a 3-lap dash to the end. Noak going early once again. And his rivals...
Caught sleeping.
Oh, yeah, they don't have much for him. Noak's got a good gap on Mole, but I tell you what, they will all be scrambling for position behind him. Oh, Noak staying a little bit to the inside. Everyone's going up to the top. Have a look at Daniel Stevens. He's going to get pincer maneuvered. Oh. So everyone's really scrambling for position now. Look at Jason Martin. He's going to try and make good on what was a horrible race for him. Going to try and go up the inside of Daniel Stevens. Try and make any kind of position he can. Anything at all. Joseph Cardamone slow. Oh, 2 to go. It's all on here back in the pack. But Josh Noak is untroubled up the front. Joseph Cardamone now having to defend from Martin. Martin going for the inside. Cardamone's just leaving him a little bit of room. Daniel Stevens and Michael Lett getting stuck behind him. Nowhere to go. Jason Martin's come off the best out of all of that.
It's all going off and it's not done for these 4 at the back.
Goodness me. Here we go. Josh Noak coming through. Let through, and this is going to be lap 200. No cautions from now. Green to the end. Josh Noak versus Dean Mole up at the front, but everyone's still jostling for position behind. Oliver Searles passing Udis Pateklis. Jason Martin going through on John King. Olet in the fence, but it's not going to be a caution from here. He's just going to have to make it home. Meanwhile, Josh Noak up the front.
Oh, Daniel Stevens.
Daniel Stevens, what happened to him? Oh, yeah, big damage in the fence. But Josh Noak coming out of the last turn. He's going to take victory here in the Pocono 500. Very well done.
Great.
Excellent victory there.
King, but King didn't get it.
Yeah, wow. King just got him there. Martin, our pole sitter, recovering to finish 7th after all of that. Joseph Cardamone seems as out of fuel.
Yes, he is.
So there we go. Olet recovering to finish 10th despite having a car that's completely wrecked. My goodness. That was certainly a 3-lap run to the end to remember. Really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, an absolute awesome race. Action-packed at the end there. You had no idea what was going to happen. So really, really good race despite all the cautions. Really good race by all.
Certainly was. And I think everyone involved has crossed the line. So the event results as Josh Noak does donuts on the start-finish straight. He will take a resounding victory and extend his championship lead again. Dean Mole finishing in second place, with Dwayne Burns finishing in third. Oliver Searles recovering to fourth. Aldis Pateklis in fifth place, with John King finishing a position up from where he started. Sorry, Jason Martin in seventh, but he certainly had the pace to win that. Just tires were not on his side. Jake Fox coming home in eighth, with Daniel Stevens ninth. Michael Lett rounding out the top 10.
In 11th, we have Joseph Carterman, who just crossed the line with barely enough fuel. And then we go back to Alexander Sheridan in 12th. 13th, we'll go to Trevor Mack with Christopher Norton in 14th, who unfortunately DNF'd. And then we go back to the rest of the retirees. Raul Alvarez in 15th. 16th goes to Robert Northway. 17th, Martin Houston. 18th, Matthew Clote. 19th, Rory Boyd. 20th, Damon Stockton. 21st, Adam McLeod. Phil Otto in 22nd. 23rd, Shane Bowen. And rounding out the field, Ray Griffin.
Yes, indeed. And Raul Alvarez actually was one of the drivers to cross the line. So would seem like he was a retirement, but ultimately it didn't count towards a retirement. Well done to Raul for crossing the line there. But Cam, that race, you know, it seems to be a trend with the majors. It seems to go off right at the end.
Yeah, it does. It's really, really weird how the race is sort of a bit crazy at the start, plateaus, and then just suddenly hits the roof on the Richter scale, and it's really, really awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the top three coming in for interviews now. We'll go to our race victor first off, Josh Nowak. Josh, it seemed like you were assured victory right from the start, at least during the initial period, but it seemed a bit interesting in the middle stage.
We had an interesting strategy call about lap 110, and Christian in voice chat was saying that if we make it to 133, can then pit with one to go, may have one more pit stop left, and it was really tight, and I tried my hardest to save to get to 133. It wasn't worth it in the end. I should have just kept going, but it was worth a shot.
Certainly was. We saw you lifting off and barely touching 320 kilometers an hour. We thought, what on earth is Josh playing at here? But it certainly spiced up the action.
Definitely made the race more interesting from my perspective, that's for sure. I was a little bit unhappy with the decision. I should have probably not gone with that, but in the end, luck fell on our side with that safety car, and it all worked out.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well, your championship lead now, with those excellent restarts, you've basically ensured that your championship lead is maintained. So coming into the next round at Knoxville, it's so similar and yet so very, very different.
Oh, definitely. I must say, like, coming into this round, I wasn't expecting much. IndyCar and ovals are not my thing. I bought the track Saturday, so and Knoxville is going to be pretty much the same. I think if I am competitive, it will be some sort of miracle.
Yeah, so unfortunately, race had a bit of a moment there. So we'll move on to our second place finisher, Dean Mole. Dean, you drove a fairly decent race. You were a little bit conservative on the restarts, but you drove a very good race. Well done on second. What was your strategy as far as the race went?
First, want to say congrats to Josh. He had a great run. Yeah, I was mostly worried about tires, so I was not very aggressive on the first few laps and not getting an ideal restart, but pretty happy to come home with second.
Yeah, well, you did very, very well. As far as traffic was concerned, did you worry too much about tires too much, or was your car set up to be really good on tires and just able to not burn them up too much in traffic?
It was mostly just set up, so had a little bit tighter of a car. Didn't really get off the start of a run very well, but kind of came on at the end. I think the kind of showed the pace in the middle of the race during that caution at around lap 150 really hurt because of the car saving fuel mileage. I was right on my number and in the lead at that time, so that was a awful time to get a yellow. And then again, kind of playing the long run game around 170. I was looking to pit and take a short tank, but the yellow caught me there. So coming back from those two, getting second, definitely made the best of it.
Yes, indeed. Well, we better actually thank you. Let you thank who you wish to before you head off.
Awesome. Just like to thank the team I'm with, iRacing Today Motorsports. It's irtmteam.com.
Well, thank you very much, Dean. And moving on to our third place finisher, Dwayne Burns. Dwayne, you started actually quite a way down in the field and actually managed to bring it home in third. So really good drive there. So could you just sort of, what was your strategy as far as approaching the race was?
Yeah, think I started in 10th. I'm not really very good at qualifying on the ovals, it seems. But yeah, my strategy was just to basically stay out of trouble. And I knew later in the race that the track would come in a bit and the rear tyres would last a bit better. And it seemed to play out a bit from about mid-race or so. You know, I was fighting pretty close with Dean there for quite a while. Yeah, it was turned out to be a really great race.
So talking about tyres, did you seem to struggle as well with your tyres in traffic much, or did you tend to have very, very good tyre life in traffic and also out of traffic?
Yeah, a bit like Dean, my setup was a bit more understeery, so I struggled a little bit in traffic, but I think that meant that the rear tyres kept under me, so I was able to go right to, you know, the full 30, 31 laps and not really have to worry about the rears going off.
Okay, so very, very interesting then. Well, heading into these next few rounds of the championship, you've obviously got Knoxville next up, and then you've got the Japanese Grand Prix, the Bathurst 5000, and then finishing off at Myrtle Beach. What's your approach going to be towards these last few rounds of the championship?
Well, I think Knoxville, I'm just going to have to practice every day for the next 2 weeks and hopefully come up with some pace. The Grand Prix, I'm not too sure about. I don't own the Formula One car yet. And Bathurst, unfortunately, I'm going to be on holidays, so I'm going to miss that one. So we'll see how things go.
Well, we better let you thank who you need to thank before you get off.
Yeah, well, just thanks to everyone for a good race. Thanks to my team, Avatar Auto Racing and Shane, who unfortunately dropped out early. And thanks to you guys and all the guys from Majors.
Well, there you have it. Our third place finisher for the Pocono 500, Dwayne Burns. Jay, it's been a very, very good race. A little bit not so great at the start, but it managed to put on one heck of a finish.
Better turn my mic on. Yeah, it was a really cool race. I know Reese is just had an internet dropout, so good timing with it, but he's a bit disappointed that it's dropped out, and it looks like Josh Noack's also had his PC crash right now as well. So it was a really cool race. We were a little bit worried at the start that things were going to turn really sour, but those green flag laps in the middle, that was some awesome racing. And the strategy calls, we just had no idea what was going on. We were all scratching our heads, and it shapes up now with 4 rounds to go in this championship to be 4 completely different races back to back, and it's really going to shuffle up the middle part of the championship. Josh Noack looks like he might have it all settled, but the rest of the championship well and truly up for grabs.
Yeah, absolutely. With there being, obviously, you've got Knoxville Nationals next, and then we've got the Japanese Grand Prix with the McLaren MP430 at Suzuka, the Bathurst 500 in the V8 Supercar at Mount Panorama, and then finishing off the season in the late model at Myrtle Beach Speedway. So, going to be very, very interesting to see what the international side of the major series is going to put on for those final few rounds of the championship.
Yeah, looking forward to it. No, Knoxville there's a few drivers that are going to be ring-ins for that one. So that'll really mix up the field, having a few guys that don't normally race the majors jump in, and some other guys that are regulars in the series that will probably struggle against some of those names. So it's going to be really cool. The Japanese Grand Prix will be a really unknown factor for a lot of drivers within this community. So that's going to be awesome. The Bathurst 500 will be really, really interesting with a few guys that will probably jump in as well. A few ringers that'll jump in for that one. And then the final round at Myrtle Beach is a real unknown as well. So 4 really, really different races coming up in the next few weeks in this series, and looking forward to seeing how the championship all finishes off.
Yeah, indeed. So we better wrap it up. So on V8's Online in the next week on Monday, we have the official iRacing V8 Supercar Series on the iRacing Esports Network at Spa-Francorchamps for week number 11 to see who's going to be taking out the championship. It looks like Black Clock's got it pretty well wrapped up, but we'll have to see what happens. Tuesday, we've got the final round of the Australian 410 Sprint Car Series at the dirt track at Charlotte to sit, and with the championship as it's looking, anyone in pretty much the top 3 could possibly win it. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. Wednesday, we've got the Sprint Series Australia at the Nürburgring GP circuit for what's going to be, I believe, a split sprint round.
I think it's an enduro, a 1 hour enduro from memory.
Okay, so
possibly. I'm not sure, actually. We're just making things up here.
Yeah,
That's how we do it.
Yeah, so be sure to tune in, guys, and for that round. And then on Friday, we've got the Australian Online Supercar Series at Phillip Island for the round there. So that's going to be a pretty busy week with the next round of majors. Also, in 2 weeks' time at the Knoxville Nationals, for those who don't know, I will be doing the toolkit pack. So I'll get that done for you all, and you'll be able to enjoy the Knoxville Nationals going a bit sideways and kicking up some dirt. So that will be awesome to do. So thank you all for joining us tonight on V8's Online for the international split of the major series for the Pocono 500. I've been Cameron Dance. Joining me in the commentary box has been Reese Gardner, whose internet has unfortunately had a bit of a moment, and then our director, Jay Kennedy. Till then, everybody, on Monday, we will see you later.